What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Big news of the day yesterday. The Titans have parted ways with general manager Ran Carthon. Over the past two seasons, the Titans have a combined record of 9-25. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker will lead the search for the new general manager. Brian Callahan will continue his role as head coach. A different story in Las Vegas, as they will keep their general manager Tom Telesco and send Antonio Pierce out of town. It is reported that Raiders limited owner Tom Brady is expected to be a collaborative committee to interview head coaching candidates and support team owner Mark Davis. More drama and the Bears coaching search, as their request to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy was denied, but now they have pivoted to former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, who they don't need permission to interview. Pete Carroll's free to interview with whom he would like for a head coaching opportunity. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, as we welcome you to the middle of a brand new week, it seems. This is RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, with Brad Hopkins filling in for Ramon Foster. Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Robert Walsh makes the show happen. A week that kind of feels like a month. Monday, we were reacting to a football game. Today, we have got major questions about the future of the Tennessee Titans. It happened right at the end of the show yesterday. Unless you were living under a rock, you know. Ran Carthon has been fired by the Tennessee Titans. What now? Well, we'll spend a lot of this morning focusing on exactly that. Wednesday, January the 8th. It is freezing outside, and things are bleak for the Tennessee Titans. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. Happy to have Brad here today. He's filling
morning,
in
guys.
for
You picked a great
Ramon
day to be
as he's
here.
taking some days off. Yeah, Ramon at least maybe getting to catch his breath after the news yesterday. I don't know about you guys. I take my job seriously like everybody does, but I feel like the Titans storylines have not ended since last really season, and I don't think this is going to end anytime soon in terms of the storylines that will continue all the way through the draft and then back into the season. So if you think there's an off season, at least for the Tennessee Titans, you will be wrong.
I think we're looking for some indicators, right? Just quoting Amy Adams Strong, the owner. I've loved the time I've spent with Ran. He's a talented football mind, a great man, and friend to everyone along his path. So obviously not that effective doing his job. You're talking about two seasons where they were finished 9-25, last in the division. This is a results-based industry, and if you don't win ball games, it gets people fired. You know, I don't think people were surprised that Brian Callahan gets to come back another year because this was his first year. It's not like first-year head coaches don't get fired, because they do, and we'll talk about that later on as well. But for a general manager that seemingly had a really good draft, bringing in some potential for the future of this franchise, I think some people were left scratching their heads.
I'm one of them.
Certainly, and I know many of you probably wanted to react on the phone lines yesterday. Maybe you weren't able to get in, and many of you wake up so early with us and get in here immediately. We are wide open for the first 2 hours for you to do exactly that. 615-737-1045. Former Titans tight end Ben Troupe will join us this morning at 8:20. Rhett Bryan will come in for the final hour and give us some perspective from his point of view. It all happened very quickly. Yesterday, we had about, 15 minutes left in our show as we got the breaking news. As you guys have been able to sleep on it, how has your perspective or opinion changed, or has it at all, about the move to fire Ran Carthon?
Nothing's changed for me. And I say that, and I've listened to the reports that have come out, and I know we're going to get into some of that stuff later in the show. But for me, I know that I had a strong take to end the show, and that is the take that I will continue to, talk about this morning. I understand that it's a results-driven business. no doubt about it. And to have 3 wins is bad. But there is also got to be some acknowledgement from this franchise, from the top, that this is just not a good football team right now in terms of the depth of the roster, the parts and pieces that you had to utilize this year with a brand new everything, a brand new structure at the top, which included a head coach that was new, brand new parts of the coaching staff, brand new parts in terms of the roster because they flipped 50% of it. And when you go in to try to rebuild, which this is what this was, and the foundation is shaky, you've got to have a little time to build that foundation. And I thought that was what Ran and Chad and Brian were working on together. And I thought last year was the first full year they were able to do that. And for the most part, I was happy with the draft class. I know not all the free agents worked out, but I thought they signed a couple of really good ones that unfortunately some injuries happened. But overall, guys, if you only give 1 year for a group to work together and you're not getting the results you want and you just feel like you got to fire someone, I don't think that's the way to build a successful franchise moving forward. And it hasn't worked in the past 4 years with that type of process, which has continued.
Oh, how loud the voices of change must be. I mean, because that's what we're weathering here, right? We're weathering maybe an impatient owner sometimes, maybe an impatient fan base, to say that 1 or 2 players can immediately come in and change the fortunes of a franchise. Doesn't work that way. But bad quarterback play gets people fired. And inconsistent quarterback play, if that's what you want to say. If you want to say that Will Levis is a developmental project and that maybe some people saw the writing on the wall, which is the reason why he fell to round 2, the results that he's been a part of have created the inconsistency that we're talking about here, whether it be the front office, whether it be the head coach, whether it be position coaches. So I think that when you have those kind of inconsistencies in a very pivotal position like quarterback, it just makes people turn their heads left and right and wondering what the hell is going on. Because if you got a guy that's solid that you can build around, you find pieces to complement him and make him better, right? The defensive side of the football, in my opinion, played well enough for them to be considered a playoff team, played well enough to win this junky division this year.
I would agree.
But offensively, they just didn't put together the pieces and in pivotal moments to be considered that way. You know what I mean? So, we'll see what they do this with the first pick. Oh, my God. How much national attention are we going to receive from having a new general manager in the building, someone that's going to be working closely with Brian Callahan to figure out what the hell they've got at quarterback, and what they do with that first pick is going to be monumental.
Or so we think that's what the general manager is. What the hell is a general manager here? I'm sorry. What is it? Because for the past 3 seasons, that title's changed every time, and for the most part, it's not been stability there.
They are very adamant in all the interviews they did yesterday that it is a real GM job. However, the job description sounds a lot more like an assistant GM because Chad Brinker will get final personnel say. That is still the thing I can't work out in my mind when we were sold a collaborative process among 3 people. Chad Brinker, Rand Carthon, and Brian Callahan, where there's no ego, nobody gets the credit, nobody gets the blame when it works, when it doesn't work, and then ultimately we're given a sacrificial lamb that was only 1/3 of the brain trust. To me, this is the most universally upset I've seen this fan base that I can remember. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember a time where the fan base and the narrative and the opinion around a decision made by this organization was so unilaterally negative.
Yeah, you got to go back to Houston, Bum Phillips.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
2022, John Robinson gets canned. 2023, Rand Carthon is hired as a general manager. 2024, Mike Vrabel is fired. 2024, and same season, obviously, Brian Callahan is the guy, and 2025, Rand Carthon is fired. That sounds crazy. How can you build a winning franchise just with those few stats right there? I mean, people don't know if they're coming and going, I think it may be hard even then to establish the kind of culture that players buy into when you see so much volatility.
Sure.
And that's ultimately what it is, because players can't control winning and losing. They can control only their execution and attitude. your attitude coming into the building, whether or not you want to be a part of this whole situation, and do you know what the hell you're doing? And can you do it to a degree that wins ball games? Mm-hmm. And when you have people around you, as far as front office people, coaches, and people like that, it makes it harder to buy in. And that's what you need in this National Football League, because everybody's got All-Americans. Everybody was captain of their football team at college. They're really good players. That's why the percentage of guys that make it to this level is so small, because this is a fraternity. And if you can't find the kind of guys that you want to be around in that fraternity, it's just going to be difficult to come into the building.
Yeah.
And the problem, real quick, with the list that you just listed too in terms of moves is with all those firings, they've always kept one remaining piece. So you never exactly know who to put the blame on, because there's always somebody that lingers to the next group of people they bring in. So she has never, or somebody who has, helped her make these decisions, they have never completely cut that head off the snake. So all of these people continue to be attached to the past regime. And that, to me, in its own right, is mind-boggling.
615-737-1045 is the number. Yesterday, Chad Brinker telling Jim Wyatt at TennesseeTitans.com, the person that we're going to be looking for is going to fit within the philosophy and how we're going to build this program going forward. I look at this partnership as one heartbeat, working together on all things. At the end of the day, working together collectively on what is the best decision for the Tennessee Titans. They say they will be very aggressive in finding the next GM. And the Titans believe the job description has changed significantly since Ran Carthon took over. What exactly does that mean? What do you all think about it? We'll dive into all of that coming up. 615-737-1045, making sense of the big news of the day yesterday. The Titans moving on from Ran Carthon, the reshifting of the organizational structure. A lot to dive into coming up. Wednesday morning at RKW, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. 615-737-1045 is the number. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling waking up with you. So the Titans GM job description changed a lot yesterday. We're going to tell you exactly what the Titans now are looking for in their new general manager, since they've got an opening as of 9:45 yesterday. But first, let's take a couple of your phone calls. 615-737-1045. I want to know how much your opinion has changed, if at all, since this news came out, now that we've had nearly 24 hours to digest it. Let's start with Marcus in Murfreesboro. First up. Hey, Marcus.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Morning.
This question was directed for Ramon, but he has decided to take the rest of the week off. Now, yesterday morning, when y'all was talking about things that y'all were going through, he brought up my owner, Jimmy Haslam. Now, Jimmy Haslam has gotten better as an owner. He's not as meddlesome, not as impulsive. So he has gotten better. We always say that the Deshaun Watson gamble did not pay off. Other than that, everything's been stable. Everything's been good. We know if Stefanski does not get it done next year, him and Barry will be gone. So with all that said, it seems like you guys have turned into what we used to be. And I'll just hang up and listen.
Thank you, Marcus. You're exactly right. I couldn't agree more. You are in the same boat as Cleveland, as Las Vegas, as the Jets. As the Panthers. That is the company you keep in the NFL right now. I have no argument against that.
Yeah, and I know that we talked about the Haslams and everything, and you're right. They've definitely had a little more patience in terms of the upper management part of things. You know, clearly everybody still has their issues with quarterbacks, and that's one of those organizations that continues to try to figure out that situation, which seems dysfunctional in its own right. But yeah, at least, you know, you learn from some of the patience aspect of things. Whereas here, I don't think that lesson has been learned yet. And it's how deep of a hole can you dig yourself in before you finally start to realize, I just can't, as an ownership group, keep pulling the trigger that fast.
I remember when Amy's dad owned the team, and he'd come in the locker room only after we won the ball game, and he'd shake hands and had no idea what half the people that he was shaking hands with. We always thought that was funny. There was a disconnect. And the only way that I can look at this whole situation is from the perspective of a dude that's been in the locker room and how he interacts with the people in the front office. Is there an interaction? Amy's visible. I think Amy is also someone that can be approached. I've had many conversations with her. I think that you're only as good as an owner as the counsel that you keep.
Yep.
You know, people that are giving you the information 100%. In the building, the people that are helping you understand exactly what you're working with. I don't see Amy in the war room, so to speak, picking the groceries as much as the general manager or the head coach of a team, or in this instance, maybe even the president. But it just seems like her comfort level relies completely on her relationship with the people that she's hiring to kind of run the team in that capacity. So getting that right might be the yes. situation. Because Mike Vrabel is not here anymore, not because he couldn't coach football, because he just didn't have a good relationship with general managers.
Or with the owner.
Or with the owner.
At the end of it, honestly.
Same situation can be said about why Rand Carthon was, was there a disconnect between what he and Brian Callahan would like to see for this franchise? Or was his assessment of what's going on part of the problem?
Or was he a scapegoat?
And that might be the case too. But in my opinion, when you're looking for people that are in the front office, I remember when Floyd Reese was the assistant general manager and Mike Hallevack was the general manager. And I remember it was a funny story. Glenn Montgomery was a guy that was going to be a free agent, and he was a really good defensive interior lineman. And he won some cash because he was playing really well at a Pro Bowl, all-pro level. And I remember the story went that Mike Hallevack said, you know, you've got a pretty big gun there, Greg, but you've got no bullets. You know, that's the kind of assessment that people like that in that position sometimes have of you. And can you be that realistic when it comes to your assessment? So to me, if you don't have general manager or at least assistant general manager in your title at some point in time, it's going to be harder for you to fit. And more specifically, if you don't have scouting in your resume, that makes it harder for you to fit too. Because I don't care about your relations with, the corporate sponsorship and making sure that this team is well understood from a relationship standpoint in that capacity. I just want to know, can you find the guys like Bill Belichick that really make a difference and can come in and immediately start performing at a level that allows you to win ball games? So give me some scouting. And if you've been a former GM on a successful team, then you obviously know the lay of the land.
Yeah.
Let's figure that out.
And I think there is a general sense, Brad, that when Steve Underwood retired, Amy Adams Strunk lost someone with football acumen in that job who I think was able to tell her no and was able to have difficult conversations with her. Someone who worked with Bud very closely for quite some time. And it's not a slight to Burke Nihill, the new president. I think that job description also changed a little bit. Is Chad Brinker now almost like a new Steve Underwood? That's the other question I have sleeping on this a little bit, of someone who is essentially over all of it, who is Amy's confidant.
That's a great question, because I think about this. I think consistency comes from when you've been in the building long enough that people can trust what you're saying. Steve made the move from Houston with us.
Right.
I remember him buying a house.
One.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And well beyond my years.
He originally retired in 2011, then came back in 2 different stints. And, I mean, he was directly correlated with a lot of the success this organization had under John Robinson and Mike Vrabel and Amy, kind of when she first got things running. Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that there is a trusted entity in the building, someone that understood exactly, almost from the very beginning, what it takes to win for this franchise, okay? And she trusted his counsel. Mm-hmm. And when you hire people, there's some new faces in the building. They're trying to get themselves acclimated with the culture, just like anybody else. So you don't all of a sudden assume that they know more than you about your organization. You would only hope to teach them about how things work here. And if you don't have enough consistent faces in the building, people that have been around, and that's the gamble, right? I mean, Jeff Fisher probably was one of the longest tenured coaches here, and he had some up and down years. As a matter of fact, I went through all the whole coaching regimes all the way back to Jack Pardee. You know that Jack Pardee never finished worse than second in the division. Had 3 of the 4 seasons that he coached here were in double digit wins. Now he only won 1 wild card game, which is the reason why I got replaced by Jeff when he went 1-9 in 1994, and Jeff went 1-5 the remaining of the season. But Jeff had some, kind of up and down years where he was 7-9, 8-8 for 3 seasons. And then, of course, he hit the double-digit mark a few times and then kind of fell a little bit, then picked himself back up. And then, of course, it was all over. Sure. Once he got into 2010, that's when Munch took over. So just looking at, hey, how this thing goes about people that have been familiar in the building with you and helping you make the decisions that you need to make as an owner. Right. It's good to have somebody like a Steve Underwood in the building, but guess what? Those situations are hard to find nowadays because we are in a results-based industry, and people do tend to move on from guys when things don't go your way.
Yeah, and that's been, I think, the issue since we've known exactly what Steve Underwood was to Amy Adams Strunk and, some of the things he was able to counsel her on. Ever since then, and his second stint back here, we haven't really known exactly who that person or people are. We're guessing that it could be Chad Brinker right now, but we've not had that ever affirmed to us. And so when you leave all of us guessing, it makes for me to think that things are not as organized there as they would like them to be. And Amy spends some of her time back in Texas, obviously, and is not here every single day of the week. And so you want to have somebody that is here probably that is helping you and guiding you through the everyday activities. And I just don't know if we know who those people or that person is.
Let's go to Andy in Clarksville up next, 615-737-1045. What's up, Andy?
As per usual, we're like on the same brain waves as you guys have said a lot of things. I was thinking with the patience, preaching patience all year, and all of a sudden, impatience. And then, Rand, I think, being some, scapegoat, sacrificial lamb. It's just, it's frustrating having grown up a Redskins fan and that dysfunction that was the previous administration, having impatience all the time. And I thought, finally, I'm finally cheering for a team that seems to have it together. And so I'm hoping, that with this change in the GM or assistant GM or assistant to the regional manager, they find their Dwight Schrute and move forward and are able to, use this pick. I would love for them to bundle it with a different team and maybe get some more picks and, maybe get the QB of the future next year. So just frustration. Even 24 hours later, still frustration. I liked Rand. I think he did a good job with the draft. I mean, Jarvis Brownlee in the 5th round, that was a steal, man. And I think he could have had a chance to find some more steals.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Appreciate the call.
You're not wrong.
And that was the ultimate feather in Rand Carthon's cap, was really the Jarvis Brownlee pick and the Devondre Sweat pick. I think ultimately the positives in that regard did not reflect on the field in wins and losses quickly enough for ownership. Because you can be good at relationships and you can sign 2,000-yard receivers. You can reshape the offensive line that shows flashes of being better. You can sign a good guard out of the draft in the 1st round in Peter Skronsky. Was he great? Was he worthy of number 11? Probably not yet, but he's only 2 years into his career. The issue with all of it is that it did not reflect in wins quickly enough for the owner. That's what matters today. And when you spend a lot of the owner's money in free agency and she comes back to you at the end of the season and says, really? You got me 3 wins with all of the millions of dollars that you spent of my money in the offseason? I think that's why ultimately we're having this conversation today. And I don't think it's fair to Rand Carthon because they made those decisions as an organization.
Right. And his job was to scout the talent that was going to be able to be continued to develop.
We don't know what his job was.
Right. Exactly.
We have no idea.
We would think that a normal general manager would be doing that type of stuff along with scouts. But he did, I feel like, enough with the really one full class that you can say is just on him, not connected to Mike Vrabel, to say, hey, these are some guys that could really be great pieces for the future. Remember, y'all, they're young still, and a lot of these rookies played because of injuries, because of the lack of depth on this team, because you're digging yourself out of a hole. And their whole thing was, we want to continue to build the foundation in the draft. So you were going to give him and Chad Brinker and company another chance next year to build that foundation up even more. And I was confident that he had the eye for talent and the connections with certain people to make those right picks. And you have to give it some time, though, to show on the field, especially when the quarterback position is the biggest question mark. And I think that if you were going to blame someone for that 3-win season, which is fine, if you want to blame someone, then blame them all. Because Coach Callahan is a part of the losses, and so is Chad Brinker, because he's connected to Rand as well.
Yeah, there's a hotel commercial that features this scout, and he's actually, on the road a lot, which is the reason why it's a hotel commercial, right? And they show him, clocking guys, writing in his notepad as he watches them practice, and he goes to their games and watches them compete and all this other stuff. And then he sees this guy get drafted in the 1st round or something like that. And he's elated because all of his hard work seemed to have paid off because he found the right guy. He found a talented player that could make a difference. And I think that's the gamble that front office people and people that are in scouting have. It's like you're never going to be able to guarantee the players that you're looking at are actually going to make a difference. You only hope that they do. And you only hope that they stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that is a situation that puts guys in the lineup sooner than they're comfortable with. Sure. And that is a gamble in itself. But I think that, ultimately when you're trying to find the right pieces, and that's your job, right? I mean, it's not like no one asked Rand Carthon to go in there and police the locker room, make sure guys' attitude was at the right level to go out and compete. And he certainly wasn't coaching any position. These are other people that are doing that kind of stuff. But when it comes to finding the people that make the right fit in the building, that's sometimes can be a hard situation because you can't guarantee that. I mean, look at that kid from Georgia. Everybody thought that he was going to be a really good tackle, of which we wouldn't even
Isaiah Wilson?
Yeah, exactly. Which we wouldn't even need to draft J.C. Latham. Yeah, but
exactly.
J.C.'s here for a reason because somebody thought, well, looking at all the numbers, this makes sense, right? Looking at, not only statistically, but how he performed on the field, this guy's going to make a difference. And nobody knew he was going to be a head case.
Yeah.
It forces your young players to have to play and play well immediately.
And that's hard, Will. I mean, because, I'm a person that's been in that situation.
Yeah.
I started as a rookie. And I remember how bad I played at times. Now, I did have some wins that made me feel good about myself.
Sure.
But for the most part, as I went through 13 years, I realized that I was at my worst at that point as a professional. And that's what you would expect, especially from a guy that doesn't have the experience in the NFL. When they say that 10,000 hours you master something, right?
Yep.
Well, shoot, how about if you start at 0? How good are you going to be? And to guarantee someone can come in and make an immediate difference like that, regardless of your position, it's hard. Because there are dudes that have been in the league probably longer than you were in college and high school combined, and that are really good at their craft and can make you look silly. So it's hard to sometimes hitch your wagon to a youngster and expect him to come in and have it. It does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because there are some players that, how about this? There was a comparison between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, right? And they were talking about how Caleb Williams seemed to be having his worst rookie season, dumpster fire, blah, 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 and Jaden Daniels like some generational rookie. The numbers were almost identical. As a matter of fact, Jaden threw 3 more interceptions than Caleb did. But yet we're sitting here talking about Caleb being dysfunctional, and that's because of what? Front office.
And it's just one season, right? Because you look at what Bryce Young has done to change the narrative of him compared to C.J. Stroud.
Down the stretch here, yeah.
Right.
In year 2, if you ask me which one of those guys I would rather have, I'd probably still lean C.J. Stroud, but it's a much more difficult conversation. Guys can always get better. That is the biggest thing I feel like I've learned just in sports over the last couple of years is no one's identity is ever set in stone. And that goes for front office executives and for coaches as well. It's literally the reason why Brian Callahan's still the head coach today. They think he can get better. Chad Brinker even said it in an interview with Jim Wyatt yesterday. Like, yeah, it was year 1. He was figuring things out. In a lot of ways, this was year 1 for the front office as well because they had a totally new playbook to work with. They were no longer picking players for Mike Vrabel. They were picking players for Brian Callahan. That's a very different profile of football player, both on and off the field. I thought what Chad Brinker said yesterday at TennesseeTitans.com in terms of what the GM position means to this organization now was interesting. Chad Brinker tells Jim Wyatt, this particular job, what we'll be looking for is someone who has spent their career as a scout, is a top-flight, top-level evaluator who has spent the majority of their career projecting college players to the National Football League. They've had a major hand in setting the draft board in preferably a consistent, winning organization, and you can see their fingerprints all over the roster. Chad Brinker adds, it is someone who wakes up every single day and the only thing they think about is building a roster, evaluating players, watching tape, working with the coaching staff, and not just someone who knows how to collect talent. I think those are key words, but someone who really understands how to build a team and how all the pieces fit together that I can work with not only in the short term, but building for the future, the long term, and understanding how all those pieces put together. Guys, Rand Carthon's positive and the feather in his cap was his relationship building skills. This is a deviation from that. In my opinion, I think they are looking for a scout, a talent evaluator, a guy that's going to watch college film and scout. That's also exactly what they said about Rand Carthon when he got the job here.
That's why I'm confused, Will.
And this is exactly the description they gave of Rand last year when he got an extension. Because, oh, by the way, he's got 4 years left on his contract as the GM of the Tennessee Titans. That's what I can't work out.
Yeah, so, by the way, Amy Adams Strunk will pay him until he finds another job. In that you said 4-year extension. And so my whole thing on this is that when you brought in this whole new structure last year and gave us all these descriptions of what those roles were and who reported to who, it made it all seem like we really got our stuff together. And we really know now, we're beyond the Vrabel and kind of John Robinson. We didn't know who had the most power thing. We knew exactly what the roles were, and everyone was happy with what those roles inquired. And Rand has a background of scouting. I mean, it's not like Rand just popped on the scene as a GM. Rand came over from the San Francisco 49ers, where everyone I spoke to who I know over there that covers the team, people that, were players over there, spoke very highly of him. Yes, the relationship part of it was there, but Rand also played the game. Rand also scouted early on in his career. He's also been at different places. And so I'm confused on why are we reiterating what we already kind of knew that position was.
615-737-1045. More of your phone calls on the other side. AG and Mike will lead us off. How do you feel this morning after sleeping on it? Rand Carthon no longer the GM as the Titans begin a search. We'll take more of your reaction next. Hey, it's Football. I want to tell you about my friends at Nolensville Auto Mart. Hey, you got through the holiday season. If you are still looking for that new vehicle for a brand new car to your family, you can still give that gift to yourself, maybe to someone in your family. And with 62 years in the business, Nolensville Road Auto Mart, these are the folks that I trust. They report to the credit bureau, so use your tax check and a down payment, and it's investment in yourself. They are family-owned and operated, and here's the best part. They are the bank. They can finance you even if you've got bad credit. It is the oldest and longest-standing buy here, pay here place in Nashville, if not one of the oldest dealerships in general. All clean titles on cars not wrecked or rebuilt. All prices under $12,000 for fast payoff, and most terms are under 30 months. And when you go in and talk to these folks, you're going to be in and out within an hour. These are Nashville natives, locally owned, 2721 Nolensville Pike in Nashville. That is where you go to check these guys out. All prices under $12,000 for fast payoff and most terms under 30 months. Warranties included with every car. They'll show you a history report of where they purchased your car as well. Again, that's Nolensville Auto Mart. Check them out, 2721 Nolensville Pike in Nashville. RKW wrapping up hour number one this morning, 615-737-1045 with loaded phone lines. Let's let the people speak on the phones this morning in the F&M Big Chat, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. There is never a line there. You can get right in and get right out. Or you can stay a while. Let's go to AG in Nashville. Hey, AG.
Hey, I just feel like everything being taken out of context. It seems like Amy has her man. He was an assistant GM, and then he got promoted to the president or whatever it is. And now it's like the GM is exposable. You know, you can cut the GM head off. It don't matter because she got her man. That's what she wants, Chad Brinker. And he got his head coach. So I just don't understand why everybody in an uproar. Like, we don't have any continuity and all this and that. It's clear that she has her man. And can y'all expound on that for me?
Yeah, I think the problem, AG, is that not that there is a lack of continuity. It's that only one person is being penalized within that continuity, right? Because they've told us that Brian Callahan, Chad Brinker, and Rand Carthon were a brain trust that were essentially one. That there were no egos, there was no one person in charge. You know, continuity is not the issue because they're keeping Chad Brinker. It's the fact that only one person gets punished for what that continuity yielded, which was 3 wins this season.
And also the problem with that, too, is they, like you said, they kept everybody who was all connected in a way. And this has been really the problem from the get-go. There's always been a connection to the past people that continue to, get fired. And so if things don't go according to plan next year, then there's going to be another person who you're going to say, well, they were connected to this situation and you cut them off, but do you cut everybody off? I think that's the problem I have and continue to, see if you're going to just do a clean slate because Rand was connected to Chad, period. When they laid out the structure, that's what we saw. So we thought we had it all in place for us when we read that sheet of paper that said these are the descriptions. We're collaborating. So does collaboration only work for a year?
Yeah, it's funny that it's not funny. It's just actually an unfortunate situation when you are part of the hiring process for the guy that ultimately is replacing you. Because the position that Chad held, even as called the president, was still below what Rand Carthon was because Rand was the one that hired him. And now we see that position is going to oversee the general manager. So maybe that's the hierarchy that Amy felt most comfortable with. But to say that Rand was the reason why this team, for the second straight year, finished last in the division, I think that there are probably a lot of other things that need to be addressed before we can actually make that assessment. Rand Carthon is a former player, a guy that actually spent 3-4 seasons in the National Football League. So from that level, I think that he's able to distinguish who can play and who can't. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to have a label as a scout. It's one thing to have a label as a general manager, but to also have the label of former player, to me, resonates. It makes a huge difference. It makes a difference in relatability. When I watch Rand Carthon have a conversation with Jalen Duncan telling him to go win the position, even though he wasn't going to win it, it was him being encouraging, him having been in a locker room and been in a situation where he's seen players struggle and is trying to give them some sort of encouragement to tell them, hey, look, this situation is wide open. Anybody that performs at a consistent level can be the right tackle for this team for, the upcoming years. Go take it. It wasn't, something that he needed to do. That's Bill's job, right?
Yeah.
So,
but with that, he felt, a need to at least connect with a guy. Mm-hmm. And on many occasions, I've seen him, much like Floyd Reese used to do. Floyd was at every single practice we had, wearing a suit, burning up like everybody else, walking around the facility. He was always visible, always around, always connectable and relatable to the guys. And that's the relationship that I thought that Rand had with the players. And to me, that's the thing that resonates the most, not how you relate to the other front office people. But obviously that might have been something that got him fired.
And go ahead, Will.
Let's go back to the phones. Mike is in Cleveland, 615-737-1045. What's up, Mike?
Hey, yo, what's up, y'all? Good morning. What's up, B-Hop?
What's up, Mike?
Yo. So pretty much just Just from the optics. We don't know these reports coming out about Rand afterwards. It just don't look good. The whole situation is just very cringy. This front office is known for doing cringy things for a long time now. And yeah, like I was saying, Rand with the relationship with the players and stuff, that's something that the Titans are not, they don't have a good rapport about, having good relationship with players and so the whole situation is just cringe, man. That's the word I got for it, and how the reports afterwards is just ugly. But this is the other thing that's on my mind. Who the heck is Chad Brinker? Who is he? What's his resume? What gives him, this power already? What has he did to earn, full control of the 53-man roster? Who is he? And so, yeah, y'all can answer that. I appreciate it. Deuces.
Thank you, Mike. We're going to tell you in just a minute or play the audio in a second of what Brian Callahan said about Chad Brinker on Monday in terms of what he did in the organizations. You can stick around for that coming up in a second. But he's someone who comes from the Green Bay Packers organization who is now going to try to run the Titans the way the Packers are run. And that is going to be a shift from free agency moves, from trading away draft picks to acquire players, I think now to the exact opposite. And we're going to talk about this more in the second hour, but I think that is more what the Titans way, quote unquote. We talk about, this team doesn't have an identity. Well, they have one now. It's just a matter of, is the owner patient enough to let them do it? And it is going to be closer to drafting and developing and retaining, which is the new phrase they gave us yesterday in the releases. Well, I mean, every organization's going to give you buzzwords. I'm so
even
the good ones give you buzzwords. It's just part of it.
This has happened every offseason, the word of the day or the word of the year, and I feel like it keeps blowing up in their face.
Yeah, real quick, Chad is another former player, spent a year in New York, played in Canada. He was an executive starting out as a scouting intern, scouting assistant, pro scout, assistant director of pro scouting.
Yeah, he has a big resume.
He's got the scouting resume that I said you need to have to be able to assess players.
But then why are you just not taking over as that? That's what I'm confused. Yeah. Why are we doing another hire of a position that seems to be confusing everybody and that seems to never last? There's no then indication that whoever they hire will continue to stay here because every year they press the red button in that spot.
Yeah. Got to be a reason
it's
why,
confusing.
though. It's got to be a reason why, though, in such a almost meteoric rise to the position that they felt comfortable enough to give him that kind of autonomy. You know what I mean? If you think about it, he was under the GM. Now he's over the GM. And like Will said, being able to kind of put things together in the building the way that he feels are most successful, maybe that's what connected with Amy. Maybe, because Amy didn't, in my opinion, just come to this decision, like wake up one day, you know what? I think I'm going to fire Rand Carthon. That's going to fix things. Or at least get us moving in the right direction.
We've been hearing rumblings from Buck Rising, according to him, since the October.
Since the Patriots game. Yeah.
That could be things.
It's been brewing. This was not a quick emotional decision. It may have been somewhat emotional, but it was not a snap judgment over the course of a week.
Yeah, but still, she even in that, she's still gathering information to make sure that she's doing the right thing.
Right.
And so obviously someone is contributing, or some people are contributing to ultimately her decision to move on from Rand Carthon.
Yeah. Mike mentioned some of the reports about Rand Carthon. We can dive into some of that when we come back as well on what we are now hearing after the fact from inside the Titans organization. Some interesting stories, to say the least, that we'll react to and give our insight to. Plus, my biggest question for Amy Adams Strunk, are you patient enough to let Chad Brinker's vision to rebuild the Titans play out? We'll give you exactly what that vision is, according to Chad, in the interviews he did yesterday as well in hour number 2. Plus, more of your phone calls, 615-737-1045 as hour 2 of RKW continues next.
What's going on? 7:02, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Big news of the day. Yesterday, the Titans have parted ways with general manager Rand Carthon. Over the past 2 seasons, the Titans have combined for a record of 9-25. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker will lead the search for a new general manager. Brian Callahan will continue in his role as head coach. Different story in Las Vegas as their head coach is out. Antonio Pierce, after 1 year, served his walking papers. They will retain their general manager, Tom Telesco, who they hired from the Chargers this previous year as well. Tom Brady is expected to be part of the collaborative committee to interview head coaching candidates and support team owner Mark Davis. More drama in the Bears coaching search as their request to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy was denied, but now they have pivoted to former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, who they do not need permission to interview as he is in a front office role. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday morning and hour number 2 starting right now on RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will with lots of reaction to the big news this week in the Music City. Rand Carthon is out as the Tennessee Titans general manager. We are wall-to-wall Titans today because, of course, we are. A lot of you guys want to react. We've got lots to unpack, plenty of reports about what went wrong, and a lot of conversation about what the new identity of the Titans is going to be. We're going to dive into that coming up in 15 minutes. Chad Brinker did a very interesting interview with Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com talking about a big departure from one thing the Titans did last offseason. And we're going to dive into that coming up at 7:20 this morning. 615-737-1045. Brad Hopkins in for Ramon Foster. Kayla Anderson. I'm Will Bowling. So on Monday, Brian Callahan was asked, what exactly does Chad Brinker do here? What was his job like this past season? And the Titans head coach answered with this.
Chad was involved in all of it. You know, Chad's he's scouted before for a long time. That's what he's done. His background is in personnel. It's in scouting, but he's also got unique experiences, you know, in the business side of it with his time in Green Bay, and has a really good feel for what the structure of an organization should look like. And yeah, it's really been the three of us sort of all the way along. You know, from the time I got here and all the way through the season is. We've all sort of worked on the same things, and Chad has his responsibilities, and Rand has his, and I have mine, and we all come together and try to make whenever decisions are made or whenever we need to do something, that we're all on the same page, and we have been all year. That part's been really, really fun for me. I've enjoyed that part because I think Chad's got unique experiences, unique perspective, and so does Rand. I think they're both really unique people. I'm glad we have them.
It's been all three of us working together with our own individual responsibilities. Well, right. One of those guys is no longer here.
And that's why I am dumbfounded by the decision. If you guys are all three working together and collaborating this season, which I know, again, it didn't turn out the right way in terms of wins on the field, but there's more that goes to that than just wins on the field. It's the process of rebuilding this team, of building up through the draft classes, of, you know, finding who are the right pieces to fit here. And when you get one season to do that together, you hope to build on that usually. You also, when you lay out a structure, you're finding the best people to bring the best things to the team. When you have one person that does, you know, something and is expected to do it all, that's not necessarily going to be the recipe for, you know, years to come in terms of that's what you're going to stick with. I thought that they were doing this because everybody brought a little something to the table. I mean, Chad with his background, and I've had discussions with Chad. I think he's a really smart guy. Talk football with, he's great. In terms of when I had my discussions with him in the training camp sessions that were out there, Rand brings all the stuff he brings to the table with the player relation. He also has a scouting background. He's also done it at different teams before. And then Brian Callahan coming on as the coach. and the way that he coaches the team. I thought everybody was bringing something to the table. And then to pull out, the whatever, the placemat or whatever for one person makes me think like they just needed somebody to blame.
I just wonder what lanes were the three of them in. Yeah, my mom and dad never bought a snowblower because they had me and my brother.
Because you guys did it manually.
Exactly. Get them shovels and get out there and shovel their driveway. Now, if my brother came in and shoveled the same lane of snow that I was in, I'd be like, hey, get over there on the other side of the driveway so we can knock this thing out faster than you just coming up behind me. Yeah. So if they were all three doing some of the same things, to me, it's like, okay, maybe we've got too many dudes shoveling the same lane. You know what I mean? Versus spread out. Let's cover some ground here and get this thing done by all three of us being responsible for different things that then create, the job being done efficiently and the right way. So, I'm not sure how they all saw this team being built when they sat down and collectively put together a game plan. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they were stepping over each other. I don't know if they were, crossing lanes and maybe somebody's feelings were getting hurt or something, or where the disconnect was. But it seems like if everyone was confident in their responsibilities and did what they brought to the table as efficiently and cleanly as possible, then there would be this harmonic situation that would exist between the executives that would allow them to keep putting together the right product that can compete in the AFC South.
Yeah. So when moves like this happen, reports always come out after the fact about what went wrong. It's the business we're in. It's part of it. It is the organization's prerogative to have conversations that try to control the narrative as much as they can, or often individuals who you want to give insight into what they thought happened. We got that yesterday. PaulKuharsky.com writes an article, some hard truths about Rand Carthon as the Titans say goodbye, and some interesting parts of this that we can react to. Quote, I'm told all the important parties were on board with the Titans making a move and drafting Will Levis with the 33rd pick of the 2023 draft. But while Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon were at Will Levis's pro day in Lexington, Carthon left early. Some personnel people and scouts say early departures are not uncommon, but that left a mark on many inside the Titans organization, Paul Kuharsky writes, adding, so too did Carthon's post-game routine after road games. Personnel people and scouts typically eat and then dive into film of the game the team just played to get ahead on the Monday review. But Carthon often did what I do on my plane rides home after games, Paul Kuharsky writes, he napped, saying earlier in the piece, his critics did not view him as a grinder. Thoughts?
That can be a dangerous narrative right here. Considering the fact that we don't know who the person is that is saying this. And I appreciate Paul and his reporting, and I understand that is what he's trying to do, is get out, his part of that article. But
he's
at the
saying
same
what somebody
time,
told him.
But someone told him this, and we don't know who that is. And so it's hard for me, if I don't know who that person is, to exactly trust what's going on. Because right now it's been painted as a picture that everybody's trying to jockey for positions there in the front office. That's how I see it. And so who can you really trust when people, it looks like, are looking out for themselves? And so I just think that's a little bit scary of a narrative to go with, guys, when we really don't have the facts, and Rand has not been able to speak for himself on this. I just think it's weird that somebody would paint themselves as lazy in a situation and know they're being lazy when they have their career that's on the line. They have a family here. I mean, he knows the urgency that is in this organization to win and to be on your game. He has a background at other places where I had not heard that narrative before with the 49ers, at least with when I asked about him when he was over there. So that to me is a little bit scary of a narrative to go with if you haven't really had the full picture on the other side as well being spoken.
I only go by first-hand accounts. If you weren't there, if you weren't a part of the conversation, then to me it's like, you know what? You just said, who said that? His critics. That's what critics do. critics come up with ways to obviously knock you down. And I'm not listening to that unless you sat there and watched him sleeping on a plane, unless you sat there and watched him get in his car and leave, and you're being told these things from somebody else. Obviously, somebody has motivation to actually tell you these things to help create and paint a narrative. So unless you're willing to disclose, who it is that's saying these things, and then we can also then compare those notes with how you've typically had relationships with Rand, to me, it's just hyperbole. It's just, whatever.
I'll choose my words carefully because I'm in no way taking a shot at Paul or the report that he has, or the reporter, I should say. This is not about him. I think it's personal, though, for whoever put this out there after Rand was fired. It's pretty weak, to be honest with you, because it screams somebody in the organization that so desperately wants to flip the court of public opinion positively because they know they're getting raked over the coals, or they want to earn a bigger opportunity and he was lazy anyway. Like, we would have been hearing that not after he was fired. We would have been hearing that before, had that really been something people in the organization thought. The fact that's coming out after the firing was made, I don't put a lot of stock into that. Again, not criticizing the reporter. He's got a job to do. I get it. I'm criticizing whoever's putting that out there into the universe. I think that's pretty bush league. I think that's pretty weak and pretty unethical, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, if you think about it, those are some pretty telling, some pretty damning facts. If that were to be facts, right?
That is a strong accusation.
So for someone to
that's
play
why I said it's dangerous.
So somebody actually felt convicted enough to say these things. Man, I saw Rand over there sleeping versus watching film. Man, that ticks me off. And if you felt that convicted about it, then stand on that. Mm-hmm. Stand on that business and say, this is what I saw and this is what I don't like, versus 100%. Letting it leak out to somebody else that might have a bigger megaphone than you to be able to give us that kind of information. If that was something that was, because those are things that do get people fired. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Ultimately. And, if you're not willing to go ahead and say that, hey, look, I was the one that saw this happening, and I didn't think that this is going to help us get
Stand
where we needed to be.
Right.
Stand on business instead of just
Danny makes a great point on YouTube. Clearly, they didn't think that he was lazy last year when they gave him a 4-year extension.
That's what I'm saying. I don't get it.
Like that's not something that just changes in 1 year.
No, it doesn't. And those are some specific things too that you're really like, okay, I've got this. I'm ready to go. I'm going to put this type of narrative out there. I mean, that's always going to happen with people, right? You saw what happened with Vrabel, and we do know the power thing is a thing with Vrabel, but there were specific things that were put out about Vrabel and his relationship and how he handled that with certain people. This is something that's coming out now to try to control it, which again, I don't agree with. I think that is very dangerous to go out and put those things out there when we don't know who it's coming from. It would be hard for me to believe, that is not just, hey, we're just trying to make everything look good on our end.
Ramon's in the chat. It says whoever said that is making it as if Rand's the coach. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, Rand wasn't coaching quarterbacks. Mm-mm. Rand wasn't coaching the secondary. Rand wasn't coaching anybody. The only thing I saw was him trying to be encouraging for some guys that needed encouragement. Like, hey, look, Jalen, get out there and win this spot, man. You see, we've had 4 or 5 dudes out there in this position. You can go ahead and do that. It wasn't like he was saying, hey, look, let's watch your technique. Let's go through some drills together. Yeah. He didn't do any of that stuff. So, where is his level of influence? And how much should we actually take into the results that we saw on the field lay at his feet, if you know what I'm saying?
615-737-1045 is our number. There are 3 words that sum up the Tennessee Titans' vision under Chad Brinker's leadership. We'll tell you what that phrase is and what the new Titans way is likely going to look like coming up. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your heating system keeping up with the colder weather? Well, available 24/7, 365. The professional lead company team is here to help. Their technicians will perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to keep your home running efficiently this winter. Even better, save $30 on your next heating tune-up visit today. That's $30 off on your home's next heating service by contacting Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. Maybe you realized over the past 48 hours, my home's heating not as ready for the cold blast of winter as I thought it was, or you just want to stay ahead of whatever else Mother Nature's going to throw at us because we get all 4 seasons in a week sometimes here in Middle Tennessee. Give Lee Company a call and put the best players on your team at 615-567-1000 or head online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW continues live on 104.5 The Zone with Brad Hopkins in for Ramon Foster. Draft, develop, retain. Those are the three words used by Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, when asked by Jim Wyatt about the new vision and philosophy to get the franchise back on track. My question, guys, is he going to have enough time to do that?
Wow.
So here's the thing. Here's where I think Amy Adams-Strunk is changing the way the Titans do business. I think Amy Adams-Strunk feels like Rand Carthon and the Titans spent too much of her money to go 3-14. I think there is a feeling within that organization that they were too aggressive by trading for L'Jarius Sneed, by making free agent moves that they thought could put them on the brink of being a playoff team, which everybody bought into in that building. Again, they quote-unquote collaborated to get to that point, and then look where it got us, right? So, the vision. Quote from Chad Brinker, "There's a lot of pressure to win now, but if we truly want to be one of those elite franchises in the National Football League, I firmly believe this is the path we need to follow. And over time, we have a focused, methodical approach where we are measuring our success by first downs and not touchdowns. Touchdowns are going to come. Let's get on base. You don't have to swing for the fences, but the home runs will happen. They are going to happen. The philosophy, this vision, it works." So what is that vision? I know I'm saying a lot of words here, but setting the table for, I think, what this discussion is going to be. The question is, what is the vision? Quote from Chad Brinker to Jim Wyatt, "We're going to be a draft and develop organization. Number one, it means we're going to build the core of our roster through the draft, and we're going to be selective in free agency. Number two, it means we're going to emphasize player development, particularly our young players," Chad Brinker says. "And number three, once those players are developed, we're going to be looking to retain our core performers, our very best." Guys, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, this is what usually a goal is of any organization. That's
I do think it's different than what they were last offseason.
Okay. Well, and if that's what you think, that's fine. But I do feel like this has been what they've said. And actually, Chad Brinker said that to us in training camp, that their whole goal was to build up through the draft. So we knew that already. And the develop part, in my eyes, that lands heavily on the coaching and the coaching staff that's here. And right now, they didn't do a good enough job last year, in my opinion, then, if they went 3-14. So if you're depending on this coaching staff then that is still here to do that, that's fine. But then you need to give them more time as well, because this is not a flip around type of situation for the Titans, because they're in such a hole. It's going to take a while to do that. And so that also then leads me back to the whole question on, again, then why did you just fire one person? Because I understand, well, that this is laid out a little bit differently, but they still were saying last year the whole thing is to build up from a foundation and to draft, and build that foundation thick. But it had only had the first sealant.
Yeah. I think owners are only as good as their coaches. Coaches are only as good as their assistants. Assistants are only as good as the players that they're actually coaching. I just think it's a unique situation when you state the obvious, which is drafting good players, developing those players, and then getting them to seeing multiple contracts with the same franchise. We're in a different era nowadays where money does speak volumes, and sometimes you just can't afford to keep good players. But the nucleus should always be taken into consideration when you're talking about building a culture of winning. I did 3 contracts here. 3. Mm-hmm. When's the last time someone that has been drafted to this franchise does 3 or more contracts?
Other than punters.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the point is, that's the retaining part of what he's talking about. And he didn't say keep everybody. You just can't keep everybody.
No.
Right? But you can keep the group of guys together that are playing consistent enough, well enough, first off, to deserve multiple contracts, but getting to that point where they are getting better every single year incrementally, and you're affording them that. I never saw free agency. I know you hear me saying a lot of I, right? But, I mean, my career here tracks to what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about me being a first-round pick, the 13th player taken in the draft, and me getting 3 more contracts after I got drafted. So that seems to be a formula. Steve was here for how long? At least 3 contracts. And we both restructured our contract. Eddie, same thing.
Sure.
You know, the core guys that you see their jerseys retired in the stadium there, they had more than 1 contract.
It's been Derrick Henry.
Amani's he's on his second.
He's on his second contract. Again, Derrick Henry is the guy and Brett Kern that have had more than 2 contracts with this organization.
That's the retaining part of what he's talking about in that formula. Developing your guys and then keeping those guys on this roster for as long as you can.
But they had just gotten to the drafting part of trying to build. Like they aren't even in the mold yet where these guys, you're seeing the fruits of the labor yet.
Sure. And I think this is a departure from signing guys like Calvin Ridley. That's what I take from this. And I think that is the message loud and clear when Chad Brinker says, obviously, we just haven't been good enough the last couple of years. And then I think this is a key phrase here from TennesseeTitans.com and Chad Brinker. I think it's important we're disciplined in how we make our decisions moving forward. Like, we don't stray from our core principles and what we believe in. We say yes to these things, and we say no to these things, and that's sometimes hard to do. That, to me, screams Calvin Ridley. Because what do we know about the Titans' pursuit of Calvin Ridley? They had other plans. They had other ideas. They had a vision of someone else they wanted to sign. They couldn't. Rand Carthon said on the record, so we pivoted to Calvin Ridley. We pivoted to somebody else. We spent a lot of money on a guy that was not plan A. Maybe I'm off base here. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm willing to hear that argument, but I think this is Chad Brinker saying, no, sometimes if we don't get plan A, we would rather just not spend a lot of money for plan B and just trust the guys that we've drafted. Here's the problem with that. That's going to take time to see the fruits of that labor. And this owner and this organization doesn't give people time.
Right. And what I'll say on that too, Will, is, and I think they're on record for saying that. I don't know if it's Rand or Chad, but they had, I think it was Rand, they had so many holes to fill this last year. I mean, because they flipped the roster, there was so much that you could only do with what you had, right? So you had to go sign some of these free agents.
Rand said, I mean, we checked all the boxes.
Yeah, and that maybe was not right to say that, right?
Said that
because you don't know if those were all going to work out. I get in theory what he was saying, but at the same time, anything can happen in a season. But I think they were just going to try to fill the holes because you needed to fill those. But because, unfortunately, the depth wasn't there because it's been obliterated by previous things that have happened in this organization, you were really in a sticky situation. And that's why I was just saying they needed, as a group, as a trio, they needed more time together, in my eyes, to really see this through. But now it's up to Chad and Brian. And then whoever they bring in.
615-737-1045. Marcus in Nashville up next. Hey, Marcus.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on?
Morning.
What's up?
Well, I'm not happy about this because, the first game I went to, the first person I met from the organization was, I call him the daddy from Prince of Bel-Air. That's what he looks like, the new Prince of Bel-Air daddy. That's what I was talking about. He took a picture with me, selfie with me. I ain't never met no April. I ain't
Uncle
never met
Phil.
nobody else.
Why you talking about Uncle Phil, Marcus?
There it is.
Uncle Phil from the new Prince of Bel-Air, the re-edition of it.
Oh, the new.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
The new one. They look just alike. But he took a picture with me. And the way I look at it about this, man, if I was him, all these people we getting rid of, we keep on having to pay. I don't understand that. I ain't never got fired and still got paid. I had to lie and say I quit to get unemployment. You know what I'm saying? But I wish I could get these jobs where I'm getting fired and still getting paid. And if I would just run it all the way out. I ain't gonna lie. We out here paying folks that we ain't even, that's gonna be making money with other people. We got so much money out there that we can't even keep no money in there. So we got to get that together. Can't pay nobody. That's just my opinion. Y'all have a great day.
All right,
Thank you,
Marcus.
But you're right, though. We're seeing, ownership pay out people still. I mean, John Robinson hasn't had a job yet. Mike Vrabel's probably going to get one, but he was paid all last year. in terms of because he's not a head coach. And now, Rand Carthon, who got the extension. The extension is what blows my mind. If you had any indication that this was not your guy, why the hell are you giving him an extension?
They did the same thing with John Robinson and Mike Vrabel.
But what is that?
It's the way Amy does business. I know. I'm not excusing it, but I know Buck said it yesterday. It's almost like as soon as you get a vote of confidence from this organization, it's a kiss of death that in a year you're going to be fired.
That's scary. I say don't give me the extension.
Oh, if I'm Brian Callahan now, I'm saying, oh, crap.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem like her approach is almost reflective of a fan base that is tired of losing?
Reflective of a fan base.
Yeah.
And maybe she's just got rabbit ears, or she's just super sensitive to what people are saying about her organization. Like, you know what, man, we deserve better. We deserve better.
And I think one point to that strengthens that argument is the idea that the Titans are cheap. I think Amy Adams Strunk's like, oh, you think I'm cheap?
Right.
Watch me pay 3 GMs at one time.
Watch me build a new facility.
I'll fire somebody after 2 years. I'm not afraid to pay them to not work for me. That's fine. They hate the fact that people think still that they're cheap. And to be fair, in free agency, they've kind of debunked that. Like that idea the Titans don't pay people is not true. I think now it's almost shifted the pendulum to the other side. They're paying too many people in free agency and people that, they're paying not to work for them.
Yeah, but you have to understand that has been the Oilers-Titans legacy.
100%. Yeah. And I think Amy has
her dad wasn't paying nobody.
Very hard to change that.
And that's the thing.
Very hard to change
they had the reputation of being cheap, of being penny pinchers. And I remember when I got drafted, bro. We went. Sorry, Kayla.
I call people bro, so you're fine. I call everybody
walked
bro.
into the facility down there on El Camino in Houston. And I thought, what the hell is this? There aren't even any windows in this building, right? Yeah. And y'all have been here since when? And we had to do our indoor practices at the Astrodome and pay the city of Harris County to go ahead and do that to turn the lights on. That's how they were pinching pennies down there, right? And then I'm watching his daughter, his successor, basically building this beautiful facility for the guys to kind of just want to be there all the time, right? And she actually told me to my face, she said, I like to spend money. I thought it was funny. It was cute because she totally went the opposite direction of her legacy to say, hey, look. And what you were saying, Will, about bringing in players and paying guys, I mean,
they spent a lot of money in free agency.
A lot of money.
And you do need to spend it, right? Like you got to spend.
There is a floor.
There is a floor, right? Yep. But part of that, Will, for me too, is you are letting them spend the money. Put a little trust. It's all not going to work out perfectly. Yeah. It's not. But I do think they did make some good moves in free agency too. You got to put a little trust, and it doesn't just happen overnight.
John is in Dixon. Up next, 615-737-1045. Hey, John.
Hey, I got a simple answer for all these Amy Adams questions, and it really boils down to, guys, a majority of the problem is we're just a bunch of dudes sitting around trying to figure out what a woman's thinking. That's it.
Yeah, I think we're not.
Well, I mean, I'm not a dude,
that,
so
let's not do that. Absolutely not.
I know you probably don't want to admit that I'm here on the show, John.
Not a matter of gender, not at all. Dan Snyder. I mean, we can go down the list of bad owners or inconsistent owners in the NFL. Gender has zero to do with it. So miss me with that. Absolutely not. If you're on hold ready to say that, just go ahead and drop off. We don't want to hear from you. Mark in Clarksville. Redeem the callers, Mark. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, I'm a long-time listener, but I'm a rare caller. But
welcome.
I appreciate it. This whole Rand being lazy thing kind of got under my skin a little bit, so I had to call and kind of give you guys my feelings on that. So I hope my thoughts flow through smoothly. I'm not a big race baiter. I'm not a race baiter at all, but just the whole thought of a black man being lazy has been a narrative across a lot of business areas, a lot of professional venues in America. And to hear my favorite club, somebody from my favorite club, football team, come out and sneakily say, hey, this guy, he doesn't do all his work. Like, come on, man. Like, this dude, that he like you guys said, he's a professional player. He didn't do that by being lazy. He worked his way through many teams, through GMs, through a lot of professional establishments to get to that spot. That's not being lazy. He didn't get to that spot by being lazy. So how is it that you want to come out and say something like that? So I think whoever, and even in listening to some of the the words that Brinker and the other folks were saying about he just didn't he left early or whatever the case may be. Like, come on, man. Like, if you don't fit your system, fine, that's cool, whatever. Just say that. But that whole lazy thing, man, get that out of here, man.
Yeah, you're just saying basically what a lot of us are thinking already.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the call.
And that has just been synonymous, and that goes generations, what he's talking about. And it does sound like the same kind of language that we've always heard. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you want to get real with it. I mean, this nation was built off of free labor, and that wasn't lazy. So let's just not go there.
I
have no arguments against it.
Nope. I thought that's a dangerous narrative right there.
Yep. I have no arguments against it, Brad and Mark, to your point. I think he makes totally valid points.
Yep.
I think that's the frustrating part about the narrative that comes out after the fact about Rand Carthon. I think it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. 615-737-1045. Many more of your phone calls, totally loaded lines. And if you're on hold and you don't have time to wait, you're headed into work, you can pop us on YouTube, 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers by the time the Titans make the number one overall pick. If you're there, a lot of new folks, hit the bell. You'll get notification when we're on. Hit the subscribe button. It helps us. It is free to you, and it takes you about 0.5 seconds. Ton of new subscribers here. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on 1045 The Zone TV. If you're watching on YouTube, there is no line to wait to get your comments in the F&M Bank chat there in the comments section. We'll go rapid fire on the phones, take more of your reaction coming up next.
Do y'all want to feel better about yourself in the new year? I know I do. 2025 can be the year that you have fuller hair, thicker hair. We all want that, right? Hey, it's Kayla Anderson. I went to We Grow Hair, grew my hair back, and it was the biggest confidence boost ever. I'm telling you guys, when I look in that chat, and I know y'all are watching us, and I've got a little bit of hair loss here in my temples. It's not good for anyone. You can too, though, in terms of getting your hair back. If that is the journey you want to go on, you can call them 615-376-6010. We Grow Hair right here in Nashville. They've been here for 30 years, and they have proven solutions that work. It's actually been a really exciting journey for myself. I know other people like Ron Slay have been on it. If you want more hair in just really one procedure, you can get that. They have their hair grafting transplants that's going to give you actually 2 times more hair in one procedure. They also have their 45-minute laser and PRP treatments for men and women. I've been doing both of those. And backed by the only company I trust, of course, to help my thinning hair grow is We Grow Hair. You can call them 615-376-6010. This year, look and feel better about yourself and restore your hair. Go to WeGrowHair.com. I just want to know who told Paul that. Buck went off on it yesterday in his thing, I heard.
Wrapping up the first half of your Wednesday morning RKW, 615-737-1045 with totally loaded phone lines. Get to as many of you as we can throughout the morning. Ben Troupe, former Titans tight end, coming up at 8:20. Rhett Bryan at 9. It's streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Rapid fire on the phone, starting with Richard in Winchester up next. What's up, Richard?
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Okay. I guess the last caller stole my thunder. That's the only reason I called, because I'm concerned more about the optics of this. The optics of this is that you had the Titans with 3-14, and then you had this so-called triangle of people where you had the coach, Brad, and Rand. But Rand is the only one who gets canned, and he brought in Brad, and Brad ended up being his boss. But Rand gets canned, and then after he's canned, you get all this coded language coming out saying that, sleeping on the plane, implying laziness, like Mr. Hopkins said. And you have to be careful because you could lose half of your black fan base. I'm telling you this, and I'm being dead serious about this. And also, this may affect Rand down the road when he's applying for other positions. So this, I think it was done deliberately, and I think it was coming out of there, and I don't like it. But I'm telling you, this is coded language, and the optics don't look good with this said. That's my call.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the call.
I also think my question that could make this, what we're all like, well, was it him? I think everybody's assuming that for some reason, it was Chad Brinker, who has maybe, because he's in charge now, there's a lot of people saying, well, it's got to be Chad. We don't know that, guys.
No, we have no idea. I don't
know that.
speculate
That's what I'm saying. So it's very dangerous right now because there are so many questions and we're hearing just sources and I don't know if we'll ever know.
I heard it was the pilot.
Say what?
Yeah. Pilot looked back there and you saw that. And he said, he's back there sleeping.
And we have some more breaking news this morning. The Titans team official charter pilot has been fired after Brad Hopkins' initial report that he was
literally flying off into the sunset as we speak.
I saw what you did there.
But that's what's crazy too, because now you've got Chad who is there still, and people are connecting that firing possibly to be because of him, and we don't know that at all, guys.
It is a tough 8-ball for Chad Brinker to be behind as he begins his time as the head of the football side of the Titans. Mike Florio wrote about it yesterday. It literally said, this guy went from assistant GM to president of football operations in 2 years. Whether or not he was behind Rand Carthon being let go or not, we have people putting snake emojis in our YouTube chat when we talk about Chad Brinker. And you're entitled to whatever opinion you want to take away from this. We don't know what actually happened behind closed doors. And, depending on who you talk to, I think you'll get a different answer behind a lot of it. But the court of public opinion puts Chad Brinker behind the 8-ball before he's even, done anything in this job. That's a difficult obstacle to have to overcome from day one, when a lot of your fan base believes that you were the snake that was pulling the strings. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a difficult way to hit the ground running. And again, I've never seen this organization or the fans of this organization so aligned in a negative way towards the team.
Yep.
I've never seen it like this before, where everyone, I maybe saw 1 or 2 people yesterday that were like, yeah, good decision by the Titans. Even the people who wanted change aren't happy because this wasn't enough change. People who didn't want change are unhappy because change was made. So the Titans have lost a lot of their fan base in this. And this is where I think they've got the biggest issue. We got options here in SEC country. And Brad, you've spoken about this on this show before. There's a big Tennessee fan base. There is a big Auburn fan base. There's a big Alabama fan base. There's Kentucky. There's Georgia. There's Ole Miss. This isn't Philadelphia. This isn't Chicago. This isn't even Cincinnati. And I know they've got options in college football too. We will just check out and spend more money to watch our college teams.
Yeah, there's a reason why the NFL doesn't have the presence in the South that it does in other parts of the country.
100%.
Yeah.
When things are good, I'm not going to call this fan base fair weather because that's not true. I don't think that tells the whole story. When things are good, this is a pro sports city. We will buy tickets. We will go all in. When things are bad, I think this fan base spends their money elsewhere. And that's what these fans are going to start doing. And I can't blame any of you for doing it, especially when Tennessee is as good as it is right now in college football.
Yeah, to be clear, I don't think the SEC made Nashville a cosmopolitan. Okay? I think that the NFL, its associations, its tourism, it's selling out hotels, it's creating new eateries. I mean, I think you can see downtown be transformed because of the stadium on the other side of the Cumberland. Yeah, that does. I mean, you bring in people into B&A that want to see their team play every single weekend. I mean, that there's a home game. So I'm not going to say that the SEC doesn't have strength. I'm just saying that the NFL is a huge mega monster, right? Sure. And people will find other ways to spend their dollars if, in fact, they don't want to go spend thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars to be frustrated and walk into their car. I get it. But I just think that ultimately when you look at some point in time, there was a symbiotic relationship between the big three, Callie, Rand, and Chad. Because I don't think that Chad would have been elevated to the position that he is in if he didn't have the support of Rand Carthon. First off, Rand hired him. Two, for them to give him that title, there had to have been a conversation had, hey, Rand Bryan, we're going to move Chad up to executive vice president. All those in the opinion of agreeing say aye, or those opposed say nay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of being facetious a little bit, but you understand there had to have been a conversation with more than just Amy to go ahead and give this title out, to create this position of sorts. So they had to have understood somewhat enough about each other to think that there was a chance for them to collectively work together and create the type of environment and build the type of team that could win. So what happened from that point to this point?
615-737-1045. Again, I know a ton of you are hanging on to get your voices here on the show. We will go again and get as many of you in here as we can. We're just going to let you take over before Ben Troupe comes on here coming up at 8:20. 615-737-1045. I'll reset the headlines of what you missed at halftime of the show after this. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Is your heating system keeping up with the colder weather? Well, available 24/7, 365. The professional Lee Company team is here to help. Their technicians will perform a 22-point inspection as well as seasonal cleaning and maintenance to keep your home running efficiently this winter. Even better, save $30 on your next heating tune-up visit today. That's $30 off on your home's next heating service by contacting Lee Company at 615-567-1000 or go online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. Maybe you realized over the past 48 hours, my home's heating not as ready for the cold blast of winter as I thought it was, or you just want to stay ahead of whatever else Mother Nature's going to throw at us because we get all 4 seasons in a week sometimes here in Middle Tennessee. Give Lee Company a call and put the best players on your team at 615-567-1000 or head online to leecompany.com for an appointment to keep your home's heating in check. That's Lee Company, all you need.
It's Ramon Foster Hiller, plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. Y'all, Hiller has been around and in business since 1990, man, and they are family owned and operated. Hear me out right here. Jimmy Hiller was recently named the most admired CEO, one of the most admired CEO, because the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. It's that simple. Hiller also has a true transparency pricing. It's this, y'all. Look, they take care of you on every single job that they do every single time, and they stand by their work. Here's a guarantee to you. truth. People want guarantees these days. Well, 100% satisfaction or happy you'll be or the service is free. It's that simple. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right. You heard it. It will be free if you don't like it. A professional, experienced, trustworthy technician that will come out to your house and leave it clean and better than they found it. For more details or to get service at your home, visit happyhiller.com.
What's going on? 801, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The big news of the day yesterday, Titans have parted ways with the general manager, Rand Carthon. Over the past 2 seasons, the Titans have a combined record of 9-25 under his watchful eye. President of Football Operations, Chad Brinker, will lead the search for the new general manager. Brian Callahan will continue on in his role as the head coach. A different story in Las Vegas as their head coach, Antonio Pierce, is out after 1 year. Raiders are retaining general manager Tom Telesco. It was reported Raiders limited owner Tom Brady is expected to be part of the collaborative committee to interview head coaching candidates and support team owner Mark Davis. More drama in the Bears coaching search as their request to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy was denied, and they have now pivoted to former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, who they do not need permission to interview. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 3 and second half of the show getting started on a Wednesday morning. RKW with Brad Hopkins in for Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh at the controls. I'm Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is our number. Loaded lines reacting to the Titans firing of Ran Carthon. Ben Troupe is going to join us coming up in 15 minutes. A Florida Gator teammate. Goes all the way back to the college days with Ran. Of course, a former Titans tight end as well. He will lend his voice to the conversation and will have lots to say. Coming up at 8:20. Rhett Bryan at 9. Inky Johnson, midweek motivation at the end of the show. Let's let the people have their say, shall we? Let's go back to the phones. We got totally loaded phone lines, starting with Terry in Nashville. Hey, Terry.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing? Long-time listener. Hey, I must be stupid. I just stroked a big check for new PSLs at that new stadium. And if this is the kind of thing we're going to be looking at, I'm really rethinking that. But if you think about it, you get right down to it. I mean, Ran Carthon was responsible for getting him in there, and it sounds like Chad Brinker just went around and stabbed him right in the back, then took the heart right out of him and placed the blame on him, and that's what got him gone.
God dang, to take somebody's heart out from the back,
Thank you, Terry.
Tough.
That's intense.
That's
Well, that's what this was. Intense.
Well, I will say that with all the newness about to transpire here in Nashville with the first pick and a new stadium, all this stuff, I guarantee you there's probably some excitement in your near future. You know, think about that. Some new kid that Adam Schefter and all the pundits are talking about making a difference here, and all of a sudden they open up a new stadium. You know, I remember when we moved here in '97, 2 years before Adelphia was built. You know, and we were playing in Memphis and we were playing in Vanderbilt Stadium, and all of a sudden they usher in this new joint, and we got to go over there and watch the thing being built. That's what these kids are doing now. They're going over there watching the construction going on, and there'll be a new era of Titans football here. Now, hopefully it'll be affordable for those regular dudes to be able to go, but, you know, still, it's going to be some form of excitement. I don't think that this team is inept to not get the very first pick of the draft right and get somebody in here. Because when you have the first pick of the draft, there's almost like an obvious situation. If you take someone that is not qualified to be the first pick of the draft, you're going to hear about it before you make that selection. If the Titans were rumored to grab, X player and people thought, golly, that dude sucks, he's not worthy of being a first pick. Not every first rounder is worthy of being the first pick of the draft. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost hard to get that wrong. Now, I know that wasn't Baker Mayfield the first pick of the draft? Yeah. Okay, but Baker may have been a victim of circumstance in that Deshaun Watson was available and Haslam was willing to pay a king's ransom to get that kid in there, and which sent all the other wheels in motion. But if you think about, whatever regime is here to build this franchise moving forward, hopefully they'll do the obvious and grab the best player available in this draft, I'm saying regardless of position or whatever, and fill the needs that need to be filled most from rounds 1 through all the way through 7. You know what I mean?
Right.
And get quality guys in here that can then make you feel good about spending that money in the new stadium.
Back to the phones. Doc is in Nashville. What's up, Doc?
What's up,
What's
Doc?
going on, everybody? How are y'all this morning?
Oh, what's up, Doc?
Will, you on it today.
Just real quick, we getting ready to walk into the office, and I know a lot of people feel some type of way about Ran. my biggest thing is I think about, like, when you plant something, you got to give it time to grow. And you only gave Rand 2 years, and you gave John Robinson, 6? With a better, hand to deal with. And I don't know, it just seems unfair. And I think about, like, spades, you gave Rand no spades and said, hey, you got to make board, and you got, 2 hands to do it. An impossible task. And so that's something I feel sideways about.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate the call. I think it's fair. Good reaction. Dan is in Nashville. Up next. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Dan, go ahead. And there's Dan.
Dang, Bert.
Is this Derek on 3? Next, Bert.
Yeah.
Am I getting this right?
Dietrich, I think it was.
Dietrich. Okay.
Yeah,
Dietrich, what's up?
Yeah, as an African-American fan of the Titans, I've been supporting this team for years. So I'm really disappointed in the decision to fire Rand Carthon. I think it was very unfair. First of all, you get the first pick in the draft. You're going to take that away from the man. And secondly, everybody was retained except for Rand. I just think that's really, really unfair. I'd just like to hang up and listen to what you say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dietrich.
It does suck, man. I mean, it's unfortunate that your team played bad enough to get the first pick, but all of a sudden you get the first pick and you can't even be around to help in that, in that decision making. That does stink.
I'm with you, and it is not fair to Rand Carthon. It isn't. I mean, it got harder to defend the on-field product as this season went, and things got as bad as they did. He is not free from blame. I mean, anyone who is involved in picking Will Levis is not free from blame. I get it. But we said it the other day, like if missing on one quarterback means that you can't pick another, the opposite should be true. Hitting on one quarterback means that you should always be, this guy knows how to pick quarterbacks. And if that was the case, Bill Belichick wouldn't be the coach at North Carolina. He'd be in the NFL. Like the same guy that picked Tom Brady also picked Mac Jones. So there is a time and place. You're only available to pick who is made available to you in any given class. We had the reports the Titans wanted to trade up for C.J. Stroud. I believe those reports are accurate at the time. From what you hear, they wanted C.J. Stroud in that draft. They couldn't make a deal with Arizona. They picked Will Levis. Okay, was Will Levis still the wrong pick? Yeah, absolutely. But you had to get somebody. And yeah, it was the wrong somebody. But again, I don't think that disqualifies you from being able to make the next decision.
I'll push back against it with your Patriots analogy. I think that one thing that Bill had was the luxury of guys that could develop that side of the football. Bill wasn't that kind of guy to be standing there giving offensive plays and creating and developing quarterbacks. Josh McDaniels did that. Josh had a great relationship with Tom Brady, and it seemed like when that piece was in place and there was that cohesion, that was less for Bill to worry about. When Bill drafted Mac Jones, the qualified good guys, they weren't Steve Belichick. They weren't who's the defensive coordinator that turned Matt what's his name? Patricia. Those dudes put together going to get any quarterback sideways and get a franchise in a pickle. You know what I mean? So I think that he did have the luxury of having good assistants that then manned that side of the football and creating some consistency. And, of course, having Tom Brady doesn't suck either, though. You know what I mean? He had a process. He'd gone through enough as a late-round pick to work his way up and have an appreciation for the role he was given. And he was just a regular dude that people like playing for, kind of like a Joe Burrow type. People like playing with talented players that are relatable. Right. You know what I'm saying? That people like. So I think those are some of the things that went well for the Patriots versus the latter part when Bill basically got asked to show him the door.
Let's get one more call in here before we get to Ben Troupe on the other side. Roy is in Nashville. Up next. What's up, Roy?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Just a couple things. I met Amy a few years ago up in India. I went to the Colts game. Had 50-yard line seats, and I spoke to Nate Bain, shout out to great Nate Bain, if I could talk to Amy. And he said, sure, let me see what I can do. Well, lo and behold, Amy walks over there to me, and she speaks to me about 10, 15 minutes. And I'm just, being nice to her. I started quizzing her about football and Titan Goals history, and she gave me a little smirk, and she had an answer to everything I was asking her, some old history, some old lore, and she loves the fans. She knows sports. And at the end of the day, this is a business. and it doesn't matter whether it was Rand or Rustin Webster or John Robinson. We've seen this song and dance over the last 10, 15 years. If it's bad, somebody's out, whether it's a head coach or a GM or a scout. We're definitely in somewhat rebuild mode the last 5-6 years. Even when Vrabel was there, we saw the writing on the wall that this offensive line was really bad, and we had some veteran guys that were under contract that we wouldn't be able to sign them after the contract expires. Some guys retiring, some guys leaving, getting traded, whatever. I mean, they're going to have to be patient, and I'm hoping maybe, I don't know what they're going to do with this draft pick, but 2016, it's kind of a similar feeling that, hey, you might be able to get some players for this number 1 pick. So I'll hang up, listen, and tighten up, guys.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And Roy, I think the issue with, I understand sometimes it is a business. It's always a business, and people have to be held responsible. I think the problem with this and the way that it's been handled the past 5 years or so is you're not just taking care of it all in one swoop, right? You're leaving somebody hanging in terms of like, hey, this person's still there, so we're going to connect them to the next person. Someone's always kind of there, ready to be the next person to take the blame that's connected to the past person. So I think then that leads us to still continue to have questions on who really is calling the shots, who really is to blame, because they're never just cutting it all down.
Coming up next, former Tennessee Titans tight end Ben Troupe will join the show with lots of thoughts on the future of the organization and the firing of Ran Carthon. If you're on the phones, you can hang on with us. We'll get to you right after we talk with Ben. If you want to hang on, we'll get back about a half hour to your phone calls at 615-737-1045 if you want to get to the front of the line. But coming up next, Ben Troupe joins us after this.
Hey, Nashville is one of the hottest cities in the United States, has plenty to choose from, but maybe those options can be overwhelming when it comes to finding a local real estate agent that you can trust. And that's why you definitely need to check out my friend Bernie Gallerani. Bernie Gallerani, he has years of experience along with a proven track record, and he's not going to let you down. In fact, Bernie is going to guarantee to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he's just going to buy it from you. Are you overwhelmed with the process of moving? So Kayla, not me, but another Kayla, was in the same boat. She moved all the way from California, connected with Bernie Gallerani Real Estate, and could not have been happier with her experience. Even when her plans kept shifting, the team was patient, attentive, and supportive in every way. And now she's just days away from closing her dream home. Bernie is the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank. And it's the only agent I would trust to sell my home. So you can give Bernie a call. Actually, give him a call on his personal cell phone, 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644. Or just check him out at BernieGallerani.com.
RKW continues in hour 3 this morning, talking Titans. Brad Hopkins in for Ramon Foster. With Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Robert Walsh makes the show happen as we are joined not only by a former Tennessee Titan, but a former teammate of Rand Carthon's and friend of the show, Ben Troupe. Here on the phones with us this morning. Ben, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing my best to keep it as PG as I can. What's up, B-Hop, man? I ain't seen you in a minute, man. What's up, big time?
I swear to God I was talking about you the other day. I promise I was. How you been, BT?
Listen, I've been great, man. Congratulations to you and your son, man. I see you guys, in the transportation business, man. I haven't been to Nashville in a while, but if we do make it up there, we're going to do our best to travel in style.
On the hot, baby. We'll get you. We got you. Nice
Absolutely
for the plug. Thanks
love
for the plug, brother.
Ben, I know you've got a lot of thoughts, so you have the floor. What's your reaction to the news yesterday of Rand Carthon being let go?
I was disappointed for a lot of reasons. I mean, because when you think about the situation that happened with Rand, it make him look like he's not qualified for the position. He's the only person I ever seen that got a promotion in 2024, and then you let him go within the same year because you're trying to blame everything on him. Chad Brinker, I've never met him. I have nothing against him, but you name me an organization that the president of football operations get to pick the team, get to answer to Miss Adams. And he gets to kind of have the final say so when they pick the new GM. The difference between good teams and bad teams is this. Good teams use words like reload. Bad teams use words like rebuild. How long have we been hearing the Titans are going to rebuild, Titans are going to rebuild? When Rand got hired 2 years ago, everybody want to make it the big viral moment. He's coming in. I know it's not called Baptist Sports Park now. He's coming into the facility. Everybody's all love and doing all these things, but then you let him go. And then when Chad Brinker comes out and says, our new strategy is going to be our strategy is going to be to go out there and draft, develop, and retain. Well, every team does that. Every team is going to draft. They're going to develop, and they're going to retain. Here's the thing, though. He says, but we got to practice patience and not panic. That must have just happened. They must have just decided we're going to practice patience, not panic, because if you are Rand Carthon, it makes you look like I am not good at what I do. And then he said the GM we want to get wouldn't have a background in scouting. I'm like, is he trying to slap Rand in the face? Nobody is more qualified for this position than Rand Carthon when you talk about coming up through the ranks, but I do get it. Didn't I have a good season? That can't all be on Rand. Didn't I have, but you let go of guys like Derrick Henry. Oh, I'm sorry. He rushed for 1,900 yards. A.J. Brown. He's going back to the playoffs. Blame that on Rand. It's easy to blame it on the guy out the building because Rand, because he wants to have a future in the league, potentially as another GM, he's got to say the right things. He's not going to throw him under the bus. But if you are the Titans, which I'm always going to support the two-tone blue, what happened yesterday shows you why in an AFC South that the Houston Texans won, which is a real bad division right now, they're going to remain where they at if they keep on making decisions like this.
Former Titan Ben Troupe, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And Ben, that was one of our reactions as well when the job description of GM, literally from Chad Brinker, was described as someone who's had their career as a scout, is a top-flight, top-level evaluator who has spent the majority of their career projecting college players to the NFL and had a major hand in setting the draft board and preferably a consistent winning organization where you can see the fingerprints all over the roster. Ben, that describes Rand Carthon. That's exactly the description they had of him last year when they gave him an extension, right?
That's exactly who they're describing. And if you are a future GM, and you are, because obviously you're going to take the call they want to bring you in, how much power do you really have? Like, what do you really get to do behind the scenes besides be a face, be a slot filler? Because it sounds like behind the scenes, Chad Brinker is the one that get to make the decisions. You just have a GM. That's my position, but that's not actually what I do. It's like being an offensive coordinator that don't get to call plays. That's my position, but I don't get to do anything besides run meetings. I don't get to call plays on Sunday. I don't understand it. I don't know no other team in football that the president of football operations make the decisions. I don't know no other team in sports that they do that. So I don't know what's going on with the Titans. Obviously, this is why I do what I do, and this is why they do what they do. But it's supposed to make sense to the people you saying it to. So if you're sitting in that press conference, you like, that sounds like Rand, but y'all just let him go. But y'all let Vrabel go because no one really understood why you did that. Now you bring in a guy who you thought wouldn't get along with Vrabel, and then you bring in Coach Callahan. So this time in 2025, if everything happens in 2025, which we hope it does, like it did in 2024, who are you going to blame then? Are you going to blame Chad Brinker? Because he's the one who's going to pick him. or are they going to come up with another strategy? I just don't understand it for a lot of reasons. I feel bad for Rand for the simple fact that it looks like he's, inept in what he's doing, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. When I was with the Titans, and Marcus Robinson, who used to play for the Titans, he was a player personnel guy. He told me when I talked to him, he said, "I want to be a GM one day." I said, "For who?" He said, "For the Titans." I can only imagine what Marcus Robinson is saying right now with what they just did to Rand. I said, dude, y'all was in a great position, and I'm not making this a black or white thing. He just happens to be a black dude, and it just looks like the black guys just don't get the same rope as the white guys. And I don't understand if mediocrity is rampant through the league, from a lot of GMs, players, coaches, why is it, the Gerard Mayos, the Antonio Pierces, you talk about the Rand Carthons, they get the short end of the stick, which means the next guy coming behind them don't get an interview. They won't get the job, but they will get the art run the room.
Former Titan Ben Troupe joining us this morning on RKW. And Ben, when you look at the structure that they put out last year in terms of upper management, it was to be made very clear, like each person has a kind of a thing to fulfill, and this is what their role is, and we're going to work together. They used collaboration as one of those buzzwords. And for me, like, everybody brings something different to the table, right? You work together to make it all work. Rand has some great things about him. Chad had some great things about him. Brian is the coach. He's supposed to do his job. So why after 1 year is it one person's fault? I think that's what is very confusing to me, because if it's a 3-14 record you're upset about, wouldn't you just cut down the tree?
Yeah, and I think the thing that's being missed with all this is how hard culture is to build. Culture is the hardest thing to build in sports, the hardest thing to build in a family, in a business, and culture takes time. You look at the best teams in the National Football League, the best team in sports, especially in football, they got three things in common. They got a head coach, they got a quarterback, and they got a culture to go along with it. Any one of those good teams. When it comes to the Titans, I think they got the right coach. I really, really do. I think Coach Callahan is going to be good if they give him time. Right now, I don't know what type of team they're going to have, which means you don't have a culture because the culture was built through the locker room. Well, who can resonate with the locker room better than Rand? He can actually walk through the locker room. He could tell, Tate, who just got the 49-yard touchdown pass. Hey, man, I know what it's like being undrafted and getting called up.
Tate Martin, yeah.
Tate Martin. So now when we start talking about different things when it comes to the Titans, it's just a head scratcher. Look, it's the business. The hardest thing I had to learn, I appreciate people like Brad Hopkins who helped me understand the business of football, man. It's going to do something to your mind because it is unforgiving. It don't owe you no understanding. And when the more you try to understand it, it just bothers my mind. But hey, it happens. I know Rand will land on his feet. It's just a head scratcher with the off season that, who's going to be the number one overall pick. If they were just afraid for Rand to make the number one overall pick, they could have just said that.
What do you feel like then is the solution moving forward, Ben? Because I personally don't think this is an overnight solution, but it's going to be put out there, I believe, like we can fix this. What would make you happy next season to see in terms of change?
Well, the biggest thing is, actually do what you say. If you said that, we're going to be practicing patience and not panic, I want to see that happen. I want to see the number one overall pick not get traded. You get a Cam Moore, you get a Shadur Sanders because you cannot win in this league if you don't have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, it's going to be hard to do it. And, get back to being competitive in the AFC South. That's up for grabs. I mean, Houston won a division that's really, really bad. And if you are a Titans organization, you better start being more transparent because it ain't about the players that's in the draft. It's about these veterans to get to pick where they want to go. Because right now, they look at the Titans, they say, man, I know they got no state tax, but I don't know if I want to go to a Titans team because we're looking at what goes on with free agents like Bayard, with guys like Derrick Henry that you let go. Jeffrey Simmons going to get his money, but he's also a top 2, top 3 defensive tackle in the league. What if I am a guy because you got rid of D-Hop, right? How are you going to develop a guy like Traylon Burks? It's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to do, but the main thing you have to win in the NFL is perception. If you don't win the perception battle, or the reality is not going to be something you can handle because these veterans, rookies don't get it because they come into the league. these veterans that want to go to different teams in free agency, you're going to have to be able to do what you say, because they're going to ask you questions when you're trying to get them to come to your team. Say, hey, man, why y'all did that to Rand Carthon like that? What's going on in y'all front office? Because if y'all do that to him who made the decision, what about me who have to execute those decisions? I'm on the first floor. I have to deal with what happens on the second floor. I think if they can, answer some of those questions, I think they got a shot to be back in it. Because like I said, the AFC South, winning going to cure all this stuff. But if you're not winning, you better be doing something in other areas like free agency, like making sure you make good front office decisions. But like I said, it's a moment of time when they kick the ball off in the fall, it's all going to go away. But for right now, the Titans aren't looking real good. Outside of the number 1 overall pick, they don't really have a lot going on for themselves.
I know that's right, Benjamin. In 2004, Ben Troupe was drafted in the second round to this franchise, and he was but a snot-nosed rookie. But I'm going to tell you what, I saw this dude as a tremendous athlete, and to me played one of the more pivotal positions as a tight end here. And the ironic part is your first year in the league, Ben, was also Rand Carthon's first year in the league. And also Chad Brinker was going into his second year in the league with the Jets. So you can see where the playing experience, it does resonate when you're a part of the whole picking of the groceries, so to speak. But the question I have for you is really about what the guys in the locker room are thinking about this whole situation, where the trust factor and the culture that you talk about is so hard to build comes from. So put your helmet on, whether it be the white one that you and I wore or the blue one that the guys wear now. What do you think that they're thinking about all these changes and maybe the firing of Rand Carthon?
The public conversation when they talking to the media, B-Hop, they saying the right things because they understand something I can say could really, really decide my present and my future. Them private conversations at home, they talking how we talk when we talk to each other, saying, look, man, it's messed up. Because I believe that Rand Carthon, when they say once a scout, always a scout. Even though he put on that GM hat, he goes, I understand these dudes because I was them. And Rand was the 53 man on the roster. I'm the 53rd guy. I'm not a starter. I have to work my way into it. And I think the thing about it is when private conversations at home don't match the public conversations to the media, you have a problem because now I'm putting on a good face. I'm putting on a professional face. And B-Hop, I got to give people like you a lot of credit. You were already established in this league, but you didn't treat me like that. You didn't treat me like yes, you Brad Hopkins, you him, but you treated me like, look, man, we equals. I know you're Ricky. We gonna need each other. I don't know who that is for the Titans. I'm not saying they don't have that, but when I came in, Mac, may he rest in peace. You guys have no idea how much. We wanted to call y'all sir, but then don't call him. Keith Bullock, don't call him sir, man. Don't call him. I said that's Brad Hopkins, but it's like it was never. You guys helped us become professionals by how y'all work, by how y'all went about y'all business. And obviously, I'm going to always be forever indebted, B-Hop, for that 65, Impala that you sold.
Yes.
And here's the thing. It's not so much that you sold it to me. It's the fact that you even heard me out when I say, B-Hop, I want that one you drove the other day. Now, I didn't know you had the convertible until I seen Albert Haynes. I said, wait a minute, he had a vert too? But at the same time, B-Hop, people like you are the reason why teams are good. It's never going to be. The coach can only do so much. Michael Strahan said to Tom Coughlin, you can say whatever you want to say to me, but they don't listen to me because I play. So you can say if you're 15 minutes early, you're late, they're going to listen to me. We listen to you, B-Hop, because you respected Jeff Fisher. And you respect the Mike Holmgren, those guys. Because you respect them, we respect them. Because at the end of the day, you're not the one running out there. I love Jeff Fisher, and I appreciate him. And Floyd Reese, I don't know if the Titans got that on their roster right now. If the right person spoke with everybody listen, it's not going to be your quarterbacks right now. Nothing against them. So is it Jeffrey Simmons? Is it Calvin Ridley, who's only been there a year? Players who are established on teams set the culture. That's what the culture is. I don't know if the Titans have that right now, but I can say right here, and this is no disrespect, ain't no Brad Hopkins on that team right now. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to those guys. You don't give enough credit to be hot for. The team stayed together because when you say, hey, guys, listen up, you and Kevin Carter and those type of guys, when y'all said we doing yoga, I ain't never did yoga. And when Kevin Carter said the only person people supposed to be talking is people who not rookies, we like, well, I'm a grown man. I ain't gonna say it out loud, but he ain't talking to me. Well, yeah, he is too. So I appreciate them down dog days in the bubble. I ain't understand what we was doing, But B Hop was walking in and doing. I'm like, I don't want to do this. There go B Hop. There go you walking in. I say, well, how am I not going to be for something a Pro Bowler? So for me, if they don't get some people like you, B Hop, it's going to be a long 2025. I don't care who they get in the draft or free agency.
I know you get this question asked of you a lot, especially when the Titans, unfortunately, are picking first in the draft. But where do you think they should go?
Listen, there are times in life that God gives you a mulligan, and you say, hey, we get the number one pick. Thank you, Gerard Mayo. Thank you, New England Patriots. I think that at the end of the day, you got to get one of these people. If you trade out, people going to go crazy. Trade out and get who? No. Handle free agency the way you're supposed to handle it. His name is Cam or his name is Shadur. Now, Cam is going to come, with 156 touchdown passes. I did it in JUCO and 2 different colleges, both Washington State and Miami. Shadur going to come with his brother following around with a camera. Now, you got to get used to that. But if you get used to his brother following him around with a camera, because the young man can play, you get you a quarterback. Because B-Hop, look, I can listen. Every time I'm on your side blocking, I can do no wrong because you're gonna take care of yours and mine. I said I can do no wrong for this left side with B-Hop. Then I'm on because I'm not out there getting like Aaron Kenny. But at the same time, get you one of these quarterbacks and you can live with it. Because if you get anything other than Cam and Shadur, people in Nashville, they know what they're looking at, and they say, "What? I know who can't." You don't have to introduce Cam Ward. You don't have to introduce Shadur Sanders. You don't have to introduce Travis Hunter. Outside of that, you're going to have to put these boys on billboard signs. They're going to have to do press conferences and releases because you ain't going to know who they are. Get you on these quarterbacks and get you a veteran of free agency and leave it alone.
He is Ben Troupe, former Tennessee Titans tight end at Ben Troupe 84, where you follow him on Twitter. He brings it every time he is on with us here on RKW. Ben, great to hear from you, sir. Appreciate you.
Great job, Ben.
Thanks,
Listen,
Ben.
you guys are the best. Listen, be hot, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. To see you and your son doing it as a tandem, it makes me feel good in my soul. Listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get back to the National. I know y'all that got bougie these days. West End got y'all drinking tea with y'all picky out. But it's all good. I'm loving it.
Love you, Ben.
Love you, man.
There he is, Ben Troupe. Appreciate him this morning talking some Titans with us. All right, we've got a couple minutes to let you react and take over again. 615-737-1045. I've gone back and found what Amy Adams Strunk and the Titans said about Rand Carthon last year.
Perfect.
When he got an extension. I'm going to read it for you word for word coming up next. Back to the phones on RKW to wrap up hour number 3, 615-737-1045. Brad Hopkins, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Subscribe to the 1045 The Zone TV YouTube channel to catch every show and archived interviews, best ofs that are available. You think to yourself, man, I really wish I'd heard Matt Miller on 3HL yesterday. Well, you can get it wherever you download podcasts, or you can head to the 1045 The Zone YouTube channel. Everything archived right there for your listening and viewing pleasure. That was a great conversation.
Mm-hmm. He always brings the juice, and it gets me actually going. Like one
of our favorites.
I hit the button, I'm like, skyrocketing.
Just sit back and listen.
Yeah.
And it's not like he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's the thing. You know what I mean? So I love Ben Troupe, man.
If you are watching on 1045 The Zone TV on YouTube, hit the subscribe button right there for us underneath our beautiful faces on the 4K video cameras. Helps us, is no cost to you, and keeps us rolling to more people.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've had a lot of new people check in with us over the past couple of days, and we appreciate you. Let's go back to the phones where Dan is in Nashville up next. What's up, Dan?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
We got you.
Hey.
Hey, guys. My name's Ben. My family and I have been season ticket holders, or had been, for about 8 years or so. No more, unfortunately. We sat through the playoffs in 2008 back in the Kerry Collins year. My brother and dad sat through the 2021 game. I've seen Vince Young, Jake Walker, Rusty Smith, Charlie Whitehurst, and this still might be as down bad as I've been as a Titans fan, which really sucks because we should be somewhat optimistic with a potential rebuild in hand. But I guess the points I want to make, Miss Amy's preached continuity, and this whole time that's been one of her buzzwords, and technically she's given us that. 6 firings, 10 seasons, but never the coach and the GM at the same time. So it just kind of makes you think. J-Rob was the problem. Coach Rabel was the problem. Now Rand was the problem. Were they the problem, or is there a bigger problem that just isn't being addressed in the public or in the media right now? Because all I can see is the consensus around the league and in the media was that Titans had a top-tier offseason, and now it's been completely blown up without a chance to see it through. I mean, got the number 1 pick. We hit big last year on 2 first-round offensive linemen. Got T. Sweat. We're top 10 in cap space, and they're going to fire the guy that set them up for this future success. I mean, just makes you think. Like, and now we're seeing stuff. Seems like Chad Brinker is going to have all the power based on statements in the media that are made. And then in that case, why even go after a GM who's just going to seemingly be an assistant GM to Brinker? What GM and coach is going to want to come into this situation? And then on top of that, what young player? Like, if I'm Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward, I'm seeing this. Why would I want to come in and be the next potential scapegoat? And Brad, like, I really hope you're right. Counterpoint to the point you made earlier about the future being potentially exciting. I just look back to this franchise's and ownership's first-round pick history and our recent draft history as a whole. I hope you're right that they're going to give us something exciting, but there's not going to be hope, man. And then no media from Miss Amy sending others to say what she wants.
Right.
That's just weak sauce. That's weak sauce to me, especially after we hear after the fact quotes after Rand's been fired that have been leaked.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate the call.
Good job,
lots of things there that I agree with, and I think a lot of fans feel the exact same way you do.
Yeah, I think Ben made some good points.
This is what Amy Adams Strunk had to say in the Titans official release exactly a year ago after expanding Rand Carthon's responsibilities to include full roster control. Quote, over the past year, Rand has impressed me and our staff with his innovative approach to roster building. Amy Adams Strunk added a year ago, Rand's exceptional reputation around the league as a talent evaluator and culture builder was a clear competitive advantage during last year's free agency and draft process, as well as our recent search for a head coach. More Amy Adams Strunk a year ago. Quote, simply put, Rand Carthon makes the Tennessee Titans a destination for the league's top talent. By expanding his role to include full roster control and oversight of the coaching staff, our organization will now benefit more completely from Rand's unique ability to build and lead a championship caliber football team. That is Amy Adams Strunk talking about Rand Carthon a year ago.
But she didn't say how long it would take.
I'm sorry.
And that's the difficult part.
That frustrates me.
I mean, I've always said that, an NFL team is like a it's a large cap versus a small cap in a stock market strategy. You know what I mean? It's like this isn't something that you can get in and out of and make quick turns and expect immediate results. You know, it takes time to build something like that. Unfortunately, this results-based industry doesn't allow that to happen today. You know what I mean? It's like there are other people, other organizations that will pay players. They're constantly not only scouting draft boards, they're scouting other teams to see what other players are looking like, you know what I mean, and what difference that they could make. And they're also looking for other opportunities. So there is a business side of it that makes it kind of hard to just kind of look at what you got and just trying to keep everything in-house. Like you read earlier about Chad Brinker's description about how you build a winning roster. It's drafting, it's developing, and it's retaining.
Yep.
Well, that formula is also made more difficult when you do add in that formula of free agency and, you know, just hoping that you get coaches in there that can make a difference with these players that they're drafting. You know, I mean, you got to have guys that can, you know, that can coach you up the right way just as well, just as much as you need to buy the right players. You know what I mean? So that combination of putting things together to create the chemistry that is necessary to create a winning organization, it's not as easy as some people would think. Oh, just fire that guy or just hire that guy. Right. It just doesn't work that easy.
Craig is in Nashville. Up next. Hey, Craig.
Hey, guys. B-Hop, good to hear you on the radio, man, and you guys are doing a great job this morning.
Thank you.
Just a couple things. The situation with Rand Carthon, I'd like to look at it like change happens for you, not to you, both for the organization and for Rand. A better opportunity might come along for this man. And, that's the way I choose to look at it. But it is a business. Second thing, and I'll hang up and listen to you guys respond, but you know how creative, there's no denying how creative Deion Sanders tries to get. Do you think he's going to try to bundle himself with an opportunity with all of these coaching positions open and pull some kind of nonsense behind the scenes and nurture that into fruition before the draft? Just kind of wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on it. I don't know why that came to mind, but it did, and I'd appreciate just hearing what y'all think about it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
I think Deion has built a good enough thing at Colorado and has a couple of really talented quarterbacks coming in next season. I don't see him as a package deal with Shedeur Sanders in an official capacity. No.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes because we see Deion and who he is, and there's a lot of him, and he puts himself out there. And so I think it's easy for us just to assume now that he's going to go with Shedeur to the next moment. I think he's smart enough to realize, too, that at some point his kid needs to go on and do things on his own, and he can continue to do what he is set out to do, which is develop young men, I believe, and wherever that might be, Colorado or somewhere else. I don't think he's going to go and be like, I'm the next package deal with my son again to the next level. I don't see that happening.
Well, I will say that first off, the job, in my opinion, for him is incomplete in Colorado. Until they get into the college football playoff, I think that's not even a conversation that he's willing to have because it looks like he checked out early and is just looking for the next, best lily pad, so to speak, right? But don't think that he's not going to have some sort of influence on where his son goes.
Well, that part of it, that's fine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, he might be the next Archie Manning talking about, hey, Eli, do you really want to go to New York? You know, that kind of stuff. Or whoever was looking to draft Eli before he ended up getting drafted. Because he does have influence in that capacity. Now, whether it does entail him being the coach there, I don't think that that's the case just yet. Now, he is about taking on challenges. And once he has accomplished all that he can accomplish or what he feels is enough to have accomplished at this level, there might be another situation that says, hey, look, you've got Colorado from an almost inept program in before they got into the Big 12 to now they're relevant. What's next for you, Deion? Are you going to do a Jim Harbaugh? Jim Harbaugh won a national championship, and now he's coaching Justin Herbert in the playoffs. Everywhere you've been a winner. Continue the winning. It might be a challenge as opposed to him.
He still needs to make it to the playoff. I mean,
that's all I'm saying. He's got to get there first. Got to get there first.
They had a terrific season turning around after a disappointing first year, and now he's got Liberty quarterback Caden Salter coming in. Again, you never know with college coaches. They leave at all times of the year. I would be very surprised if Deion Sanders went to the NFL with his son, Shedeur. Coming up, Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio joins us. We'll spend the final hour hanging out with him, talking about what is next for the franchise and learning a little bit more about Chad Brinker, the president of Titans football operations. That's next on 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Big news of the day yesterday. Titans have parted ways with general manager Rand Carthon. Over the past 2 seasons, the Titans have combined for a record of 9-25. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker will lead the search for the new general manager. Brian Callahan will continue his role as head coach. Different story in Las Vegas, though, as Antonio Pierce is out as head coach. Raiders announced yesterday that they would be retaining general manager Tom Telesco after his first year on the job. Raiders limited owner Tom Brady is expected to be part of the collaborative committee to interview head coaching candidates to support team owner Mark Davis. And more drama in the Bears coaching search as their request to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy was denied, but now they have pivoted to former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, who does not need permission to interview for the Chicago head coaching job. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW live on 104.5 The Zone rolls into the fourth and final hour on this Wednesday morning. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Lots of Titans discussion throughout the day over the last 24 hours. As we get to the 24-hour mark in this hour of Rand Carthon being let go by the Tennessee Titans. Brad Hopkins in for Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Robert Walsh is our producer. And Wednesdays at 9 a.m., we are joined by the executive producer of Titans Radio, the one and only Rhett Bryan, for the fourth quarter of the program. Rhett, good morning.
Good morning to you all. Good morning, left tackle. How are you?
I'm doing great. You smell good.
Thank you.
He's got some good things that he has in his rotation. He even sent the link to me.
Putting down. What's your favorite cologne? What is it? Which one is your favorite?
I mean, that's hard to narrow down a list of favorite. Like I have things I go to regularly.
Yeah.
Like I think today I'm wearing Prada.
Yeah. Prada by Brian.
But Jean-Paul Gaultier has a good house of colognes.
That's a good one.
But there's one in Paris called Parfums de Marly, and man, there is some good stuff in there. Creed Aventus, that's always a good go-to.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need your cologne advice, go to Rhett.
Yeah, no kidding.
104.5 Cologne.
Yes.
See what I did there, everybody?
Nice.
Come on.
There is
See
all of a
what you're
sudden,
putting down
I feel a spot of you and Robert Walsh maybe around the corner of one of those fake just. It's our Giorgio.
Yes.
I'm
like
surprised.
those, but a radio spot of 104.5 Cologne.
It's funny we're saying this too because with Bert, knowing his allegiance and fandom lies with the Baltimore Ravens, I'm surprised he hadn't talked about Lamar Jackson's new scent that has come out.
What?
I
Hey, let
didn't
me
know
tell
that
you,
was a thing.
it is a unisex perfume for both men
Yes.
and
Really?
women.
Well, that's the popular model is that, yes, there are like alpha male scents and strong female scents. But if you're smart, if you market it as anybody can wear it.
I have a bottle on the way. It is a lot more expensive than the Will Levis perfume one.
Oh, well,
I bet it
we're
is.
talking mayo, so yeah. what, if you don't mind me asking, what'd you have to, how many
$90, not bad for a cologne.
Now, is it eau de toilette or is it eau de parfum?
It is a parfum. It is
Good.
Those stay longer.
categorized as a parfum.
Then that's a bargain if it smells good.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Because
those stay longer.
Things, EDTs, eau de toilettes are cut with alcohol. They don't last as long.
Didn't know
Eau de
that.
parfums cut with oil, marries with the oil on your skin and stays longer.
Yeah, no,
You and me both. Will.
I told you.
You'll have
Advice over here.
lasting power throughout the day if you got an EDP.
That's why you got me over here smelling you.
Hey now.
Rhett Bryan in studio with us, talking Titans this morning. Rhett, obviously, the big news, Rand Carthon being let go, the organizational restructuring and changing of the GM job description. Just your initial reaction to the news and to, what you took away from the Rand Carthon era here in Nashville over these past couple of seasons.
Well, let me first say this. Brad Hopkins, you hit the nail on the head in the first segment at 6 o'clock this morning. Quarterback play will get you. Inconsistent or poor quarterback play will get you. That's a quarterback league, and that's what happened in this. And, you know, with the Will Levis factor, you should be looking at 6 wins, maybe a little more, and you're not. And, you know, and same goes for Mason Rudolph, who, you know, didn't come in and wrestle that thing away and lead people to victory. But I'll say this. Rand has been awfully good to me and awfully kind to me. And you know, this is the part that Coach Mack always reminds me of. It's one of the most wonderful sports in the world, but it is a brutal, gutting business. And I feel for him and his family and his children. And then with the other people that were announced that were let go yesterday, some of them are my friends and have been for a quarter of a century. So I'm hurting for them today. Bottom line is this, and you also said something that is true, Brad Hopkins. It's a production-based business. And the other part of it, Amy Adams-Strunk's the controlling owner. She can do what she sees fit, and that's what she saw was fit, whether we agree with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's you know, this business is a revolving door. But it's hard for me to understand how things are conveyed because, and you guys have y'all all hit it this morning. You had a 55% roster turnover. Listen, in my opinion, I don't think Vince Lombardi could overcome that. And Vince Lombardi never had to deal with it. He never coached and lived in that era that we do now with free agency and the draft and all those things like that. So it hurts. And I can understand why the fan base is angry. And anyway, I would have loved to have seen Rand get a longer opportunity at this, given the roster that he was dealt and just the way the situations have gone. But back to your point, Brad, it lays on the doorstep of the quarterback play.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, it's not the sole, if we're carving up as what I call the blame pie here, that's not the sole thing, but that's a pretty good sized wedge of the pie.
There's a reason why the quarterback position is the most identifiable piece. They are usually the faces of your franchise. They usually articulate the culture in the locker room. And, you know, to have that be misaligned, it does, you know, it resonates. But like you said, it's not the only thing that it takes to win ball games. You know, you've got to have consistency of a pocket. You've got to have targets that can get out off coverage and make catches. And you know, there's so many moving parts. It's hard to say that one thing is the reason why you win or lose ball games. But it is the most easily identified problem when things aren't going right. And you know, I think that Will Levis behind the 5 best offensive linemen ever, I think he'd do really well. You know, there are probably some growing pains that would happen with any great quarterback or any first-round pick, you know, but I think that there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed from top to bottom, you know, and injuries are part of it. I mean, they brought in some free agents that didn't see the field consistently, you know, that could have made a difference, you know, but then again, with injuries comes opportunity, you know, and we got to see some younger players step into those roles and create some experience that will carry them down the stretch. So there's a lot of things that went into this, and I know you're not just saying it was Will Levis's fault. That's the reason why Rand got fired.
No, right. But that's a place where I would start, and I'm glad that you brought that up this morning. But no, there are multiple layers, and it is certainly a cumulative thing for sure. The other part of it I would say is this. I think every offseason, hope reigns supreme. Everyone gets excited about the new shiny toys that are the draft picks, and there's a lot of those that are going to be good in this roster for a while. Yeah. That's something Rand, I thought, did very well. And the free agent part of it, I had buddies of mine, hey, man, we're going to win the division. I'm like, whoa, hold up a second.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know what we've got at quarterback. We've got, just looking at this, you know, I'm like, look, I'm not like in their building, but I kind of close to some of the people that are, and I'm telling you right now, you're going to need another acquisition period in 2025, which is what we're up on.
Yeah.
Now, if Will Levis becomes Josh Allen and things are different, and yeah, we're talking about a whole lot of different stuff. To your point about it not just being Will Levis's issue, turnovers wasn't just him, third downs wasn't just him, and point production. I mean, there's a ton of stuff, but there's some key things involved in all of that. But the other thing that I point to is, and you said it, you got some nice additions free agent-wise because you could afford to do that, some of which didn't see a lot of the field because of injuries. But you have to spend 90% of your cap for, 4 seasons. That's that's how this works.
Yeah.
So when you get out of cap jail, you have to go back and put some on the credit card to keep it. They're going to have $60 million in money this offseason. That's nothing to, that's not chopped liver. And so you're going to have a chance to go find some other things in this. But they're not the stopgap end-all be-alls because the really, really good ones are under contract with someone else or franchise tagged or whatever. But there's a whole lot to digest in this. And the thing that I hate is that the excitement about the number 1 overall pick and what that could be was kind of buried.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Rhett Bryan of Titans Radio in studio with us this morning. We'll talk more about what is next for the organization coming up and learn more about Chad Brinker, a man who Rhett has sat down with many a time. You've heard him on this show. You've heard him on the OTP and even heard him on the Senior Bowl OTPs last season. More background on the Titans president of football operations with Rhett Bryan coming up next. Hey, it's Will Bowling. I want to tell you about my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center and the technology that they offer when you go by and see them. Their team of doctors of audiology, they're always committed to providing patients with the most recent hearing device technology, like the Phonak Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations where there is extensive background noise. There's a computer chip completely dedicated to address speech and noise. It's going to help you when you're out to dinner at a noisy restaurant. Maybe you were at a holiday party. You were visiting with family and friends over the past month thinking, yeah, when everybody's sitting around the couch opening gifts, I used to be able to hear what was going on. Now, all the noise going on around me, I can't tell who's talking to me and where it's coming from. They can help you. Brentwood Hearing Center, they're going to sit down with you. They're going to learn where you're having the most trouble hearing, and they're going to pinpoint the best technology for you. Get your demonstration of this industry-changing technology by calling Brentwood Hearing Center at 615-377-0420 or visiting them online at brentwoodhearingcenter.com. That's 615-377-0420. Brentwood Hearing Center, better hearing, better life. RKW 104.5, The Zone. Ramon Foster out this morning. Brad Hopkins in. Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh at the controls, Will Bowling, and Rhett Bryan in studio. This is a Rhett Bryan favorite right here.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It's a great song.
Featuring Reginald Dwight. That's his real name.
Yeah.
Elton John is what we know him by.
So good.
And this was his big comeback in 1982, I believe it was. He went through a period of excess and drugs and all kinds of things in the 70s, like a lot of rock and rollers did. And this was his big comeback, and the rest is history.
He's still standing. We're still standing in studio talking Titans with you. So Rhett Bryan, Chad Brinker, president of football ops, he will lead the search for a general manager. Tells Jim Wyatt at TennesseeTitans.com their vision is to be a draft and develop organization. Build the core of the roster through the draft, be selective in free agency, emphasize player development, particularly young players. And number 3, once those players are developed, taking a look at retaining their core performers at their very best. Rhett, from your time watching Chad Brinker work within this Titans organization, who is he for those who are maybe just becoming familiar with Chad and his background?
He's a blue-collar guy from the Rust Belt. He's from a little small town called Martins Ferry, Ohio. High school running back, played in, I think, Division II. He was a nice prospect. He got a cup of coffee invite with the New York Jets when he came out draft eligible, I think, in 2003. But he had a significant surgery and injury, and I think he went into more pharmaceutical sales or something for a minute, but he realized how much he loved the game and got latched on with the Green Bay Packers. He spent 13 years with them, and during that quest to quench his thirst for football knowledge and how this thing works in acquiring talent and evaluation, he expressed a desire to get more involved and be better educated about it. And when he talked to the Packers brass about it, they actually helped him and made it possible so that he could attend the Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern in Chicago, where he has two degrees from Ohio University and then another from there out of that program. He's a smart dude, clearly a smart dude, but he has a very blue collar background and he's a worker. But if you've ever had a conversation with him, and I know that you have Will at practice, and
I've had a couple with him.
He's a smart guy. Like, he's one of those. When we had that OTP at the Senior Bowl last year, I felt like the dumbest dude at the table. I'm like, boy, I'm just lucky to be here recording this thing because I don't feel very smart at all.
And I know that was really our first opportunity to get to familiarize ourselves with Chad. Last season, after the organizational restructuring and him being promoted to that president of football operations role, really that sit-down interview you guys had with him at the Senior Bowl, and he was the representative for the Titans last season at the Senior Bowl while Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan put together his initial staff. We learned a lot about him, but what do you kind of glean about his organizational vision? And I know I just went through more of his quotes to Jim Wyatt yesterday, but just going back to day one of him being in the role that he is in now, what was your initial impression in that conversation in Mobile?
Well, the intelligence level, first of all, and he clearly has his ideals and visions and goals that he wants to try to attain. I gleaned that just from that podcast and that conversation we had with him. The thing that stood out to me in that conversation also was how open and vocal he was about the scouting department as it pertained to technology with the Titans and getting those things up to speed and it taking a minute to do that. So he clearly had seen, listen, if you're in the Green Bay Packers organization, you must be doing something right because that's a fine organization, one of the rare, the only one of its kind that is publicly owned, not a privatized owner. But yeah, I think he's organized. I think he knows what he wants, and I think he knows how he can get it. He's just got to, and again, you still have to make these picks. You still have to hit on those picks. there's and that's why, going back to Will Levis, they made a decision to draft Will Levis and, invest all this thing into him and believe they can develop him. And I think there's still a small belief that they can develop him, but he still has to go out and do it.
Right.
He still has to go out and make the decisions and make his reads and progressions and try to keep the ball, in the possession of the Titans. But yeah, Chad, he has risen through the ranks, but he paid his dues in 13 seasons with the Green Bay Packers for sure. And for those who have worked around him, I think he's well regarded and well respected.
I think my big question, though, is then what happens now if with Rand gone and there's an opening for what they're calling a general manager position? I think a lot of people are still questioning then what exactly is this position now if Chad Brinker seems to be the one calling the shots, has final say in the roster. Then what is a GM position here with the Tennessee Titans? Because most other places, that GM is making all the decision and has the final shots.
Like you, I don't have the answer to that. I'm interested to see how all this plays out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Chad Brinker has final say in the 53 per the statement from Amy Adams Strunk and the article that Jim Wyatt put on TennesseeTitans.com. Yeah, it would make it seem like he is the de facto GM. I don't really know how all that works. That's again, I'm not the smartest guy at the table, but it's very interesting to say the least. And for those who would say, well, why in the world would you come interview for that job if you don't really feel like you're going to be the GM and it's a hollow title? It's still a prominent position of one of the 32 teams. And again, I mentioned you're going to have $60 million in cap room and the number one overall draft pick, and you have a team that is in need of quarterback services. Somebody's going to line up for it.
Mm-hmm. Is the continuity you feel, in your opinion, going to be maintained now that Rand isn't here, but it is still Chad and Brian Callahan in terms of the roster? Because that they went and they drafted certain guys. I mean, I could tell that just in this rookie class that there were certain types that they drafted. Do you think that changes?
I think it's a possibility because clearly whoever they bring in may not have the exact same ideals and philosophies and ideas that Rand Carthon are different people, right? But I think what I'm getting out of this is that they were again going to try to find someone who can have the aligned vision that whatever that is in terms of the definition of what a Tennessee Titan is or what they're looking for. I do believe, and I may be speaking out of turn, but I do believe that Chad Brinker will continue what Rand Carthon started in terms of when they look at evaluating talent coming out of college, football character is going to lead the list. You better love the game. You better not have a half-hearted approach.
You saw that last year with those rookies.
Yeah. I mean, they played their rear ends off, and some of them quite well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, while the disappointment hangs over the decision to move away from Rand Carthon, there are a lot of great positive things coming out of this, and that's one of them. A lot of these rookies got some extremely valuable reps and snaps and time, and they can grow in year two and provide more dividends in this. When you think of Tavondre Sweat and Jeff on that line and Jarvis Brownlee in the 5th round, and then I even think to the James Williams and the Jalen Harrells in the 7th round that were drafted last year that saw significant, I mean, I'm not trying to be silver lining guy, but there are some things you can glean out of this that are good.
Two-part question. Does the new general manager then report to the president of football operations? And the second part being, how attractive do you think this job is to the Thomas Dideroffs or the Ray Agnews or Trey Browns, these people that have maybe assistant general manager or scouting director positions?
One, I by the way things read, I'm assuming that they would report to Chad Brinker. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the way the structure looks like. Mm-hmm. So I would say that that's probably true. The second part, I'll go back and say what I did. It's one of 32 like it. Mm-hmm. And again, you're $60 million in cap. You need a quarterback. You have number 1 overall draft pick with whatever you decide to do with that, whether you see it fit to take one of the quarterbacks at the top or you find a trade partner and you gain capital that you can use throughout not only this year but the next and the next to put, as I keep saying, restock the cupboard so that you can make more groceries, make more meals.
No more Domino's? I mean, do we see the moving forward?
I mean, we're doing Uber Eats, I guess, for a minute, but...
I'm talking about things to fall, you know what I'm saying? Like changes to be made, ones that seem meteoric as the one we were just talking about.
But, they need some more items in the cupboard. They need some more ingredients. They absolutely do. And that's why with those things that are attractive, the importance of that and finding that. And here's the other part, just to kind of dovetail off your question, Brad, is I would think this would be a pretty expedient search because the Senior Bowl's in 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, that is where the draft prep, as far as the major events, you've had scouting departments working on this for months, but that's where it really starts. I mean, they say the draft starts in Mobile. That's true. And
Absolutely.
And listen, with who they've got down there and the underclassmen they announced yesterday
Jim
morning.
Nagy and staff are killing it.
There are going to be a lot of guys getting their names called that'll be at Mobile.
I would imagine Rand's going to be down there, you know, because there's moving and all kinds of things going on.
There's a lot of business accusations that happen there too.
Because the brass and a lot of the important people of those 32, they're all there in one spot. Now, the unfortunate thing is that same week is where the East-West Shrine Game's taking place at the Star in Dallas and in Arlington. So you'll have some split stuff, but Mobile will have, because again, at the East-West Shrine Game, that's where Shedeur Sanders and a lot of those guys are going to be. But there's Jim Nagy has done a fantastic job in getting talent to this year's Senior Bowl. It's as good a roster as you may have seen in quite some time. I mean, it is going to be don't miss stuff because be a lot. I'm already starting to look through names, and Coach Mack and I will start digging into that stuff Thursday morning. So
it's here.
It is here. It is here. And you know, the other thing, Will, that I talked about, the excitement of the number 1 pick has kind of been buried in the lead in this with the move away from Rand Carthon. The other thing that has been buried in this is today is the 25th anniversary of the Music City Miracle.
That's crazy.
Yes, it is.
Quarter of a century since, for my money, the greatest play in NFL history happened right down the road.
There are no flags on the field.
That's right. That's absolutely
Tennessee
right.
has pulled a miracle.
That was our plan for a lot of this conversation this morning before the plan of every show got
I
on.
wanted to try to go to a happy place. But anyway, the clouds came in and here we are. And then there's snow coming on Friday. So
absolutely.
But I'm glad that you are here this morning, Brad, because I want to just revisit what that was like, because that whole game, it was so crazy. Because if you'll remember, the late Bills owner, Ralph Wilson, had made a decision to move away from Doug Flutie. We've paid Rob Johnson all of this money. He is going to play. I still say if Doug Flutie plays that game, there's a chance there's not a Music City Miracle. I'm not trying to down what you guys were doing, but I was a lot less scared of Rob Johnson than I was Doug Flutie.
Got to be honest, I really wasn't paying attention to how well the Bills had been playing up to that point, to where in a wild card situation they could come to Nashville and actually beat us, because we were feeling really good about ourselves then, you know?
You're 13-3, man.
Exactly. And I wasn't tracking how well the Bills were actually playing and their incentive to knock us off. You know what I mean? So
and also being under Jeff Fisher and coaches normally of looking at things as a week-to-week proposition.
Yep, exactly.
Not worried about what's down on the schedule. It's what's coming next. And so when you got to game week and you made the playoffs, okay, that's when you really started to delve into the film and what are we looking at?
Yeah, but to be in nip and tuck battles like that, it wasn't, something that was uncommon for us. We've been in those situations where we've been in dogfights, but, they felt that they had actually won that game until Kevin ran that kickback, So, just to stand there, we were just hoping to get good field position, as we were standing on the sideline, and I was just, you see those clips of Steve reacting to Kevin running in the end zone. I was just a few feet away from him with our helmets on, getting ready to go out there and hope to get in position to score or do whatever we need to do. But to see him, once they kicked the ball to Lorenzo said, No. Here, Frank, you do this. And then Frank throws it over to Kevin, and you're thinking, okay, we're at least at the 50. Oh, good, we get it at the 40. Oh, crap, we're at the 30. Hey, we don't have to go on the field but to kick an extra point.
There's a
This is the
wall.
game. Yes. That's the best feeling for a lineman is when you put points on the board and you didn't have anything to do with it.
Exactly. You still feel joyous.
And in dramatic fashion, that from everything I've talked to you in previous conversations and your teammates, you didn't think it was ever going to. Y'all practiced that at the end of practice all season.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, home run throwback. When are we ever going to use it? Whatever. Let's just do this. But to get to that day and that moment where, you know, Ike Bird was supposed to be involved and Derek Mason was supposed to be involved, and he's, you know, I think Derek had a thigh contusion or something. Anyway, it's down to Kevin, who'd never really done it because he's in year 2, and the other guy, it's down to like next man up type of situation.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was just it's almost like a Friday night situation where remember he was like, you're not going to really try that dumb play, right? Where you throw it to him and Billy Bob runs it in for a touchdown. Whatever.
Yes.
It's the same thing. We practiced it and we ran it. You're like, what? This thing worked?
To have referee Phil Luckett say the following play is under review, and we're like, roller coaster now hits the dip.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're trying to make the incline, and you hear that roller coaster tick, 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 back up to another peak to drop. And then when he comes out of that hood and he says, the ruling on the field stands. Yeah. I think that may have been where the foundational problems of the building, which was new at the time, may have started because I felt like the building shook as strangers hugged strangers, beer spilled on the neighbors, but everyone overjoyed and happy. And how many people left that game and were walking out up the
I'm glad
bridge?
you brought that up. 67,000 was the capacity, but 150,000 saw that game.
I'd say it's more like 300,000, really.
That's the story gets told, right, Will?
Oh, yeah.
I was there the day. But you know what's crazy is that still stands the test of time. You know, back a few years ago when they had the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl, they did the top 50 plays, and it made number 9.
Heck yeah.
For Mac 9.
I love it.
Very apropos.
The Music City Musical.
And that's what
I love
Ramon
that.
Musical. That's what Ramon
Was that like his
Foster.
first week on the job?
It was the first show ever.
The Music
It was
City
Ramon's
Musical.
first show as a 104.5 The Zone host.
Music City
and
Musical.
I believe Mike Keith was the guest when he asked about it.
The Music City Musical.
I believe that's correct.
I listened to it live. I was like, oh my gosh, who's this new coworker?
The fact that Schaefer or Ramon didn't write at least one song of the Music City Musical.
No, Mike Keith in the moment was like, there are no flags on the field. There are no flags on the field. Mike literally in the moment when he was answering. That's how I know it was Mike Keith. It was an interview with him when he did it. Because Mike was like,
So he
wow,
was writing
Ramon,
the
you really
script
did
and
something. I could make a song out of this. And he just started singing. Mike just started taking up voice. It was a hilarious moment. Hilarious moment.
Brad, I've known you for a long time. It's hard to believe that's been 25 years.
Isn't that crazy? 25 years. So we had Ben on this morning, and I was going to say when we were introducing him that 21 years ago, Ben, you were drafted. But golly, to see the years go by like that.
No doubt. No doubt. And, you know, those were very happy times, and they'll get back to happy times again. It's a little dark in the window of things right now, but they'll get back to good things. I know that. It's cyclical. Everybody gets a turn.
Yeah,
Everybody gets a chance. Ask the Detroit Lions how that works out right now.
Absolutely right.
I think they play it. I think they're in the Super Bowl.
After how they
really
took it
do.
to Minnesota.
I'd love to see them in it.
I'd be trending that way.
The only place where I would be a little pause on is they've had so many injuries on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
If they had half of those guys back from IR, they would, I'd say, pencil them in. They're done.
Absolutely. Totally.
But anyway, I enjoyed spending time with you all this morning.
you go.
Thank you, Rhett.
And
You're
hey,
awesome, RB.
y'all out there this morning, listen, don't wait too late. Go get your milk and bread and all that stuff because Friday, it's coming.
It's
I'm
on the
telling you, Snowmageddon. Here we go.
Rhett Bryan in studio with us as he is every Wednesday at 9. We appreciate him. We will go to as many of your calls as we have got time for to wrap up the show with Inky Johnson as well coming up.
So 16 seconds to play. Bills 16, Titans 15. Kevin Dyson is deep with Ike Bird. Do the Titans have a miracle left in them in what has been a magical season to this point? If they do, they need it now. Christie kicks it high and short. Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's
40,
got something.
50.
He's got it.
40.
He's got it.
20. 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle. A miracle for the Titans.
25 years ago today, the Music City Miracle, with all of the chaos going on in the organization and in the world of professional football in Nashville. Pretty crazy. Brad Hopkins, it was 25 years ago. There we go.
25 years.
Well done by Robert Walsh.
You know what?
He's got something. I think he's got something.
You know what? The funny thing is, those are the type of moments that in that season were kind of unifying for this community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Because not only that, then going down to Jacksonville and winning the AFC South and winning the AFC Championship and coming back here into a parade of people in the airport. Those moments when you guys were kids, Will, you'll always remember. And now those people, those parents, now they got to watch it when they were kids. Hopefully they can celebrate some moments like that in the not too distant future, because that's what galvanized this community
Absolutely.
as far as loving the Titans football.
It definitely helped create the fan base that calls us today, who cares enough and is angry enough to have conversations with us. Let's go back to those fans. Jay is in Jacksonville, up next on the phones this morning. What's up, Jay?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
What's up, Jay?
Listen, I was so depressed about the whole Rand thing happening, and then y'all bring up the really senior American background high school. I forgot what I was going to talk about next. I'm over here about to run into a wall like I don't have faith in the Titans over again, because I remember where I was. I was in the living room watching TV with my brothers, and they gave up. They went outside. They was like, "Oh man, it's over." And then once the Music City Miracle happened, I went outside screaming to them, "Yo, we won!" They was like, "What?" I was like, "We won, man! We scored a touchdown!" And, they came back in and they watched the replay. And we was in the living room. We was hysterical because we had won that game. So so I was like, I was about anything happening, and y'all started talking about that, and I'm all hype again. So it was definitely good time. I remember that play very well. Kevin Dyson did his thing, man. That was a good memory. As far as the whole Rand thing, man, it was just messed up, that happened to him. I was hoping that he would get another chance to at least revamp the roster. We have the number one pick, so pros and cons to that. You do get a chance to at least rebuild, as we would say, and he didn't get a chance to do that. I thought this was the year that he was definitely going to make the chance. I thought he made some good free agency moves. Last year, and definitely good draft picks. Sweat, Latham, Brownlee Jr., all those guys are decent players. They're pretty good, real bright features. So I thought he did well, and I thought this was the year that he was really going to make a splash and he was going to become a good franchise.
Yeah, hey Jay, we appreciate it, man. I know I hate to cut you off, but we've got a lot of people that want to get in here. We only have a couple minutes to do it, so I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but we do need to kind of keep the line moving.
Get the hell out of here.
We appreciate the call.
Jeez.
We still got Inky coming up here in a minute as well, so we appreciate you. Let's quickly go to Chris in Clarksville. Wants to chime in on Rand. Chris, again, same message. Got to keep it moving, but you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, as a Titans fan, I'm just frustrated. It's been you started 3 years ago. You fired J-Rod because you traded away A.J. Brown, and then Vrabel wanted more power, and then you bring on Carthon, and then because Vrabel wasn't collaborative enough or he wanted too much power, you decided to fire him and bring in a more collaborative coach. And then because they couldn't turn around in one season, you decided to fire the GM that you tried to preach collaboration with. I don't know if you guys are fans of The Office or anything, but there's a scene when Michael, it's a dinner party episode, when Michael's talking about
getting
3 straight vasectomies with Jan.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
You know, yeah, exactly. Snip, snap, snip. You have no idea the physical toll that 3 years of coaching changes and GM changes has on a fan base. Okay? Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Chris. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Gold star call.
You have no idea the physical toll. I love it. Am I a fan of The Office? Yeah, anyone who knows me knows I,
Yes,
to a fault,
you are.
will make The Office about everything. So I appreciate you, Chris. That is all the time we have for calls today. Many of you reacting this morning. Our message, again, will be come back tomorrow if you didn't get in today. Or hang on, we got a lot of shows left.
For sure.
This is only the beginning of day 2 of all of this. So Buck Rising, Cover 2, Blaine and Zach, and, of course, 3HL have you covered for the rest of the day. Brad, you're back in with us tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
As we continue the discussion, and we've got college football playoff semifinals.
I know, tomorrow.
Let's start tomorrow as well. We can get into a little bit. And speaking of a city that can't handle snow, good luck with that, Dallas. Getting ready for the Cotton Bowl this weekend. But right now, we end our Wednesday morning the way we always do with our good friend Inky Johnson, who joins us live for some midweek motivation. Inky, what's up, sir? How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you all?
We are excellent.
Good.
Man, it's an honor to be on. Man, I'm gonna get straight to it. One of my good friends, a guy by the name of John Gordon. You know, every year at the turn of the new year, you know, he wrote a book called One Word, but he does this thing to where it's like, hey man, pick one word for the year that you're gonna try to focus on, that you're gonna try to navigate life with. And so this year, my one word is inspiration. You know, finding inspiration, you know, in different spots, in different areas of life, with my work, with my family, with my children, just finding inspiration. And so something happened right at the turn of the new year. I had been telling my wife with my office, it was just full of like different things that people had sent me, you know, that I had done work with, different colleges, different businesses, you know, Chick-fil-A, UCLA, Tennessee, just a lot of different gifts that people had sent me that while I was out traveling and doing what I was doing, my wife would just take it, put it in my office. And so I went into my office, I looked at it, I shared with my wife, I was like, you know what, I'm going to organize this, get my office back in order at the turn of the new year, you know, so I can navigate. I've been meaning to get to this. And so she was like, yeah, okay, cool. And so as life would have it, moving with the kids, doing different things in the holiday season, I didn't get to it. And I came home one day, and it's a restroom right by my office. And something had happened with one of the toilets. It malfunctioned. Somebody did something at one of our holiday gatherings, and water started running out of one of the toilets. It overflows, and it runs into my office. And so when I get there, I'm frustrated. I'm like, man, some of the things that people had given me, you know, it gotten wet, like it messed up my rug. Somebody had given me a Tennessee rug. I'm like, man, I'm frustrated. And my wife looked at me, and she said to me, you said you were going to get to this stuff and you were going to clean out your office. So now you get the opportunity to clean out your office. I say, you know what? You got a point. The message in that is this. This year, as you set your goals, your aspirations, the things you seek to accomplish, always remember, man, it may not always come in the form of what you expect or what you wanted. But a blessing is still a blessing. An opportunity is still an opportunity. Shift our perspective and our perception to be able to see it, to extract it, to appreciate it, but most importantly, to embrace it. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great year. That's my time. Thanks.